Yes. What's happening, everybody? It's your Uncle Weezy here on a Wednesday afternoon, very special version of Just the Tip with me, your host, Uncle Weezy, looking to break down all the fights on this UFC St. Louis card coming up this Saturday, May 11th, that is going to be headlined by Derek Lewis versus Rodrigo Nascimento. We got 13 fights to break down. We're going to break these down from a tape study and statistical angle. We're going to try to find the plus EV bets that'll help you stack cash tickets like flapjacks for this event so that we can all not only enjoy watching the fights, but maybe make some money while we're watching them by placing some smart plus EV bets. But before we get to all that, some bad news here in the MMA Twitter, MMA YouTube community. We lost one of our own yesterday. Bleed MMA, one of the pioneers of the people that were doing this on YouTube at first, right? If I share my screen with you guys here, I want to point out that my guy, Just Win Baby, posted this GoFundMe for in memory of Bleed MMA. Some of you guys will definitely, if you're watching this show, you're going to remember who this guy is. One of the best YouTube predictors out there, had a long time running show. He was part of the old Odds Network back in the day with Clinton, Brady, and this guy. And I mean, like it's MMA prediction guru, way back in the day. We're doing shows with this guy, and he is legitimately the funniest guy that ever did it, man. I mean, like I laughed every time I watched one of this guy's videos. Definitely one of the pioneers. We lost him yesterday. Died unexpectedly. He leaves behind a wife and a young daughter. So there is this GoFundMe here that Just Win Baby tweeted about. It was organized by Dhruv Nanda, and it's a shame. Life is short, and eternity is promised to no one. We lost one of our own, so that if we can all kind of come together and help out his family in this time of need, it would show that this community, this MMA Twitter, MMA YouTube community that we're all a part of here, that we can help out our own in times of trouble. So please consider just sending his family a message. It's on Twitter. If you're following Bleed on Twitter, you could see this. If you followed Rich Just Win Baby on Twitter, he's posted this. I've retweeted Rich's post, but it's just a great way to give something back to somebody that gave so much to this community. Rest in peace, Bleed. You will be missed. Rest in power. And I hope that your family gets through this as soon as possible. And you're going to be really missed, man. I really enjoyed watching this guy's content, and like I said, one of the funniest guys to ever do it. So rest in peace, Bleed MMA. It's just rough when we see things like this. So please consider giving some money to his family so that they can see the generosity of this community. Thank you for listening to that. But yeah, appreciate you guys for hanging out here. What's up to everybody on YouTube? What's up to everybody on Twitter? We are coming off a small winning week last week. I think I was up about a half unit tracked. Had some things go my way, had some things not go my way. Missed the over 1.5 rounds in the Caio Borralho fight by 20 seconds, but also I had Diane Barbosa's money line for a unit. I thought she lost that fight, but I got rewarded a win there. So some things balanced out. But if I were to share this on my Bet MMA tips here, you can see that we won a half unit on the Diane Barbosa money line. We won 1.2 units on the fight goes to decision for Pichel versus Bonfim. We hit the 2-leg parlay of the Uncle Weezy's ass shaving of the week, Alexandre Pantoja, and the oral buy money lines at plus 1.19. And then we lost a 2-leg parlay where we had the over 1.5 rounds in Borralho versus Craig. We lost a quarter unit on Costa by submission. He got the knockout. And then we had a tenth of a unit on Diane Barbosa by KO at plus 2,200. And yeah, that was it. So up 0.57 units. I had a bet on Gomi that got canceled because obviously he looked like hell on the scales and got sick. Just after he made weight, he got sick and puked up 3 extra pounds and then wound up at weighing in at like 143. So wild stuff there. But yeah, this is 3 weeks in a row, but they're small up weeks, so we got to kind of break out here, three out of 3 winning weeks in a row. 4 out of the last 5 weeks are winning weeks, but still, we're just kind of creeping up slowly. I'm really looking to break out and have a big week here. And that always starts with the research that we put in here on this show every single week. And if you guys are members of the Patreon, you know about the new probability package that's available here, which has this excellent betting template for ways to find plus EV bets on inside the distance, KO, submission, decision, unanimous decision, and split majority decision bets. We also have the over-under template here when they open up all the lines, that is, of checking out all the fight doesn't go to decision, fight doesn't start round 3, under 1.5 rounds. We've got divisional benchmarks. We've got combined fighter performances. We have the implied probabilities of the betting lines so that you can determine whether a bet is plus EV or not and combine that with your stylistic read in order to make much more educated bets and make sure that you're always getting the right price when it does match up with your stylistic read. And also the matchup stats that you always see here on Just the Tip and you see on Stat Diggers on Pub Sports Radio. Right now, Brady and I are starting to do probability on a subscribers only basis for members of the Patreon. So if you're interested in joining the Patreon and signing up for the probability tier, the $25 a month tier, you're going to get access to that weekly probability show, which will be tonight at 9:15 Central Time, where we will be going through all of these fights, finding the best priced lines that match up with our stylistic reads and giving you great bets for every single fight, and finishing up with the probability parlay to give you 2 legs to put together that'll give you something plus money that you can make some money on this week. And then also you get access to all these phenomenal stats, the matchup stats, the over-under template, the betting template, the individual fighter stats for each fighter, like Veronica Hardy here. You get to see the significant striking stats, the ground and clinch striking stats, the distance striking stats, the grappling stats, all of the DFS information for DraftKings, for FanDuel, for Prize Picks, for Underdog, the complete fighter histories in the UFC with all the stats by fight, the pre-UFC information as well, and then all of the aggregates up here on top. It's a great value at $25 a month. It's a great way to support the work that we do here on this channel, Uncle Weezy, that we do over on Pub Sports Radio, Brady and I. We're offering a chance to do some really interesting and innovative content where we feel like it's best for subscribers only, so that, the people who are supporting the work get access to the best analytics and statistics and content possible, so that we can all help each other out, make a lot more money betting in this space. So please consider joining that Patreon at the address right down here. And then also the Dub Club. If you want to join on Dub Club, that is also in the description of this video, as is the GoFundMe for Bleed's family, also in the description of this video. So please consider joining the Patreon. Please consider helping out Bleed's family after everything that he gave to this community. And let's get on with the show. Let's see what you guys are up to here in the chat, as we have got Let's Roll 1313 in the room saying, "Oi, yes, I've been waiting for this opportunity to catch a live show that's not past my bedtime." Yeah, I'm normally on late at night, especially if you're East Coast. I don't even start until 11 p.m. So it's always good to see the people here that are legitimate, hardworking human beings, not like your Uncle Weezy that's going to bed at 2 or 3 in the morning and waking up well past the time that most people who have jobs wake up. We're doing a daytime show, so it's accessible to everybody, especially the ones that skip work or that can slack off at work and watch YouTube. We got Fever Covington telling me to hurry this up. He's saying it starts at 4 p.m. I'm going to bet the over 415 at plus 140. I don't think he cashed that one, but it was a plus money bet and probably not the worst bet in the world because your Uncle Weezy is late quite a bit. We got Olajuwon Dream in the room saying, oi! And we've got Presidente Pedro in the room saying, oi! And we've got Jenna Marie in the room saying, oi, Weezy. What is up, Jenna? Good to see you hanging out in here. We got the Amsterdam in the room with the beautiful picture there of the muscles from Brussels saying, let's go, Weezy. I need to shave ass this week, as do I, man. I'm putting together winning weeks, but they're not big enough winning weeks, so we need a big up week this week. We got my guy Brady, DFS by the numbers, who's going to be hosting Probability this evening, saying, oi, let's keep circling the wagons, both me and Brady, on pretty good winning streaks over the last 3 weeks, although Brady's winning more than me every single week, where at least we're still both putting up winning weeks every week. So we're looking to keep that ball rolling, keep that snowball getting bigger and bigger as it rolls downhill here, and we stack more and more flapjacks on that money stack here. We got JP Taylor in the room saying, oi! And we have got JP Taylor saying, bought my ticket yesterday. I'll try to sneak in some clippers for your boy Charles Johnson. I'm going to fight till after the fight, though. I got to bet on him. Yeah, man. Do not go trying to cut that dude's hair against his will on account of your Uncle Weezy. I don't need anyone out there getting their ass kicked by professional fighters. That is for sure, man. And we got Jeff K saying, just tried a new taco spot on Montrose. Now I'm just in time. Which one, man? Disco Taco? Did you try Disco Taco over on Montrose, or did you try El Gallo Bravo, which is over on Montrose? One of my favorite ones from back in the day. My girlfriend used to live like a walking distance from that El Gallo Bravo right there at Montrose and Clark. But always some great taco places anywhere in Chicago. We got TH in the room saying, what's up, Weezy? We got Andrew G saying, wow, what's up, Andrew? We got Jeff K saying, rip bleed. So very, very sad to hear. Yeah, man, it is nasty, dude. I mean, like, came out of nowhere. Nobody was expecting this. Rest in peace, says Olajuwon. We got Robert Saladino saying, we'll donate, sad, take advantage of each precious day, and resentment with friends and family. P.S. I love the daytime start. I'm glad you guys like it, and I see that we got 88 live viewers here between Twitter and YouTube right now. So it's definitely resonating with people, and we're seeing more live viewers than we normally do due to the early start. So thank you guys for joining us here. We got Jester saying, what's up, Onk? What is up, Jester? We got Pickle Kush saying, well said, Weez. Rest in peace. Thank you, Pickle Kush. And yeah, please show some love to Bleed's family. We got Mark Frost saying, what's up, Weezy? We got Jester saying, leaving Saturday morning to watch these fights in St. Louis, pumped up for it. Yeah, man, it's a fun card, dude. We got Andrew saying, best part of working for yourself, no punch clock. Yeah, definitely have to work hard, but yeah, I'm not punching anybody's clock, man. I get the job done when I have time to get it done. Ruthless Soda Pop saying, Joaquin Buckley is going to shave the ass of Ruza Boy of this week. Can't wait. That's a great fight, man. That's a really interesting one. Yeah, he'd fuck me up, says JP Taylor. Yeah, man, he'd fuck me up too, man. We got my guy Clint in the room saying, oh, what is up, Clint? Good to see you hanging out, man. We got Olajuwon Dream saying, played Despaigne Acosta over 1.5 at plus 195, and now it's down to plus 155. It's down to plus 150. I thought I saw that up to like minus 230 earlier for the under 2.5, but I mean, that's going to be a butt puckerer. I mean, Despain's got 5 fights and they've lasted 5 minutes. So playing over 7.5 minutes is terrifying. And both of those guys have power, but we'll see how that one goes. That's an interesting fight. We're going to find out a lot about Robelis Despaigne this week for sure. And Olajuwon saying, also playing the overs in the McKinney and Lewis fights. I like to live dangerously. You are living very dangerously, but you only got to hit like 1 out of 3 in order to even make money sometimes when you're betting that wide of overs. So yeah, it's not the worst thing. Let's roll saying, I need another ass shaving of the week. You are rolling. Yeah, man, I'm getting that momentum, my man. I'm getting that momentum, but we got to keep it going, man. We got to keep putting in this work. I like my pick this week. I like it a lot. And I'm waiting waiting for the props to open on all these books, you know. So yeah, we're gonna get to it. We're obviously gonna find out who's gonna shave ass later on in the show here. But and Jeff saying Taco Pros, more west over by Pulaski. I approve of this barbacoa. Dude, I love barbacoa. So good. We got my guy Lou Betcha in the room. Yeah, Weezy, my brother, if you haven't already, as a respected person of the community, any words on Bleed MMA? Yeah, I started with that, Lou. Yeah, man, Bleed was the man, and I was really shocked to see that news yesterday. You don't expect. I mean, he was a young, you know, and left behind a young daughter. So yeah, the like I said, the Bleed memorial right here on GoFundMe. On Twitter, also, you can check out. I retweeted Rich's tweet earlier today talking about the GoFundMe here, and you know, Bleed's wife tweeted in his account to talk about the unexpected, horrible news that we lost him unexpectedly on Monday. So yes, definitely wanted to give everybody a chance to, you know, mourn the loss of Bleed and you know, give something to the family to remember the contributions that he made to our space here. We got Volcan in the room saying, "Oh, what's up, Volcan?" Benino saying 7 of 8 on my parlays last Saturday. Anthony Smitty was the apple pie shitter, getting that fucking guillotine choke locked up on Petrino and finishing it. Robert saying, "Do not sleep on Nur Sultan." And yeah, we're going to talk about that fight. That's a great one. We got Volcan is agreeing with that. We got Joshua Max in the room saying, "Oi!" And we got JP Taylor saying his number is crashing at Robert Saladino. Yeah, well, we're going to talk about this fight, but let's get into it, you guys. Let's start breaking down these fights. We're going to start with JJ Aldrich versus Veronica Hardy. One more time, please consider joining the Patreon to help support this work and get access to tonight's subscriber-only version of Propability, where we're going to go deep into all the prop betting markets on all 13 of these fights so that we can all stack cash tickets like flapjacks. Address to the Patreon right here, address to the Patreon, and address to the Dub Club, where you can get access to these to this subscriber only content is in the description of this video. And we're going to start off with JJ Aldrich, the plus 121 underdog, going up against the favorite here now in Veronica Hardy, minus 141. Fight doesn't go to decision here. Nice plus money number at plus 300 for this. So let's first start talking about the trends here. JJ Aldrich is on a 2-fight winning streak. She's won 2 of her last 4 and 5 of her last 7. She's rattled off 2 straight wins over Na Liang. That was a second-round ground and pound knockout. She was a massive favorite in that fight, though, so she kind of just paid off her price tag. And then we also have her winning against Montana De La Rosa. That was a 30-27 unanimous decision as a plus 125 underdog in that spot. Prior to that, JJ dropped the ball as a minus 360 favorite as against Ariane Lipsky. That was a 30-27 unanimous decision loss. And then she lost by second round, standing high elbow guillotine choke to Erin Blanchfield. But she was a massive underdog in that fight at plus 360. Now, JJ Aldrich is fighting Veronica Hardy. She's on a 2-fight win streak of her own after taking 3 years off after her 29-28 unanimous decision loss to Bea Malecki back in 2020. Veronica took some time off. She married Dan Hardy. She was doing the Outlawed podcast with him and then showed back up as a massive underdog to Juliana Killer Miller. She was plus 330 in that fight, and she cashed with a 30-27 unanimous decision win. And also as a plus 160 underdog next time out against Jamie Lynn Horth. She won that fight by a very close split decision. Somebody's winning streak is going to come to an end, and the bookies think it's going to be a close fight. They've got Hardy here about minus 135, Aldrich around 115. So JJ Aldrich she's taller, 1 inch taller. She's going to have a 3-inch reach advantage. She's going to have the pro and UFC experience advantages here, and those are pretty significant. 6 pro fights, 75 more minutes of cage time, 7 more fights at the UFC level, and about 110 more minutes of octagon time. And I think JJ Aldrich has shown that she's a pretty good minute winner. She's 8-3 to the decision in the UFC. She's not a finisher, yet she's kind of found a way to get 8 UFC wins that are on the judges' scorecards. Striking is solid. She's accurate and defensively responsible. She's never been dropped in 14 UFC fights, and her accuracy and defense at distance are both well above average for the division. JJ does her best minute winning in the grappling exchanges, though. She's getting less than 1 takedown per 15 minutes, and she yields about 0.9, yet she's winning over 2/3 of the control time positions her fights are in. When her opponents want to grapple, she does a good job of keeping fights standing. And when her opponents want to strike, JJ mixes in the grappling and can win some minutes there. She finds the weakness of her opponents. She uses her toolbox to exploit those holes. JJ finds a way to get the win. She's scrappy, she's durable, and her conditioning is solid. If you aren't UFC level or if you have holes in your game, JJ's going to beat you. And she's got the strength to schedule advantage here. JJ has fought, beaten, and lost to the more experienced brand of UFC competition with the better win-loss ratios. So JJ has got a lot of advantages in this spot. Veronica Hardy, though, is 3 years younger. That's always good to get the younger fighter. And Veronica is also showing that she's a solid minute winner, and that skill set of hers is starting to really round out and allow her to be somebody that can go out there and find multiple paths to victory. She's 5-2 to the decision as a professional. She's won her last 2 fights in the UFC by way of decision. Veronica has a traditional martial arts striking style, a taekwondo background, and a bladed stance. She's 5 of 6 on her takedown attempts over her last 2 fights with over 9 minutes of control time. And while she's been 5 of 6 on her own offensive attempts, she's stuffed 5 of 6 attempts from her opponents as well. So she's only allowed 3 minutes of control time. So she's winning almost 75% of the control time positions in her last 2 fights as well. So the grappling efficiency seems to be there, and she's not just doing well defensively. She's also demonstrating the ability to go to her offensive grappling to win minutes. Veronica is still only 28 years old, and she's rounding out her skill set here. They think that this fight goes to decision, about 80% of the time, so we're going to see some juiced decision lines here. As you see Veronica around -155, the decision prop is only +100. JJ Aldrich at +135, the decision prop is only +165. So yeah, the betting template kind of is leaning you more towards maybe just kind of taking the shot that maybe the fight ends inside the distance. It does like Veronica Hardy inside the distance at +400. That's almost a trifecta bet there. But the pick for me is going to be Veronica Hardy to win by decision. So let's get up this card. We're going to make some picks here. We're going to start with JJ Aldrich, Veronica Hardy. And I'm picking Veronica to win by decision because, like I say, both of these ladies are showing good abilities to win minutes in the cage. But right now, I think I know Veronica's younger. I think she's definitely faster and more athletic. And I think that the fact that she's winning minutes now at this level probably makes her the more marketable fighter, the fighter with the bigger future, and probably the fighter that's going to have a few more fans here. So yeah, I'm picking Veronica to win this one by decision, but the decision lines are pretty juiced up here, and I don't see a whole lot of value in them. So maybe if you see this one finishing inside the distance, betting fight doesn't go, or picking whichever fighter you think is got a chance to finish, you'll find some meat on that bone. But I think that this one probably does go to decision most of the time, and it's going to be Veronica Hardy probably getting the nod here. Let's see what you guys are saying in the chat, though. We got finish only, says Benino Peruza-Boyev. We got Steve Balboni in the room saying, "Oh, what's up, Steve? Good to see you hanging out, man. Midday chat for the unemployed fellas. Love it. Let's go. Let's do it, dude. It's better than watching Judge Judy or whatever the hell is on this time of day on the crappy television. Night shift for Benino. There we go. We got Andrew G saying plus 300. Whoa, yeah, that is a very, very fat fight doesn't go to decision line. This one's going the distance, yes. Jeff saying Veronica has been powerlifting and training at Renzo Gracie. Sub plus 600, kind of sneaky. She doesn't show it against Horth because she's massive for 125, and that's the thing. JJ, former straw weight, but you're right. That last fight against Horth is a massive flyweight. So the fact that Jamie was able to win minutes in the grappling exchanges against somebody that size, that strength, very impressive there. So I thought that was a really good win for Veronica Hadley. So yeah, I think that's a great play there at plus 600. If she's been powerlifting and she already had a sneaky submission game prior to the 3-month or 3-year layoff. So that's not a bad look. I'm fully prepared to look like a dummy playing these overs, but we all ball. Yeah, that's right. But we ball. That's what we do. You know, sometimes we're going to look like an asshole. We got Andrew G saying Hardy with a greasy split. Yep. Olajuwon saying hoping Acosta and Nascimento get greasy. Yeah, that would be wild if it did, man. You'd be making a lot of money. Call me Husker in the room saying I like a little parlay with all the hometown fighters together this weekend. That would be Charlie Johnson. That would be Sean Woodson, and that would be Joaquin Buckley. That's your UFC St. Louis hometown parlay this week. And, they're definitely all alive to win this week. That is for sure. We got Paul in the room saying last few times I doubted JJ. I regretted it. I'm going to take a chance on her this time. And you're getting her at plus money. And plus money females are a good look most of the time, Paul. Olajuwon saying Mokaev and Kopp just announced for UFC 304. Oh, that's a fun fight. Hell yeah, man. That's a really good one. Love it. Benino, and that's in Manchester, so that's going to really favor Muhammad Mokaev. At least Dan Hardy stays winning outside the cage. Yes, sir, he does. We got Benino saying Cap should be KO Mokaev, especially if it's 5 rounds. That's true, man. Andrew saying better than Steve Wilkos' show. Local Chicago guy, Steve Wilkos, stand up. We got Gus B 2003 in the room saying Judge Weezy. That would be a great show. The most stoned judge ever. We got Let's Roll saying it's been a few weeks. It's time to get that merch out. Ass shaving of the week merchandise, that is. Yeah, dude. I'm going to need an artist to help me out with some Uncle Weezy's ass shaving of the week merch. That would be pretty cool. Jousset win. Quarantine Pigne in the room asking a Jousset win. Well, let's talk about it. Let's get onto that fight here. We got 127 of you live watching here on YouTube and Twitter. Hit that thumbs up if you have the chance. Hit that subscribe to the YouTube channel so you don't miss out on any content. If you're on YouTube, please leave me a comment down below. And most of all, join that Patreon, that $25 a month tier to get access to probability and all the stats on this spreadsheet every single week. And that is going to be a subscriber-only show, so it's going to have a lot of value because all that information isn't going to be going out to 2,000 people watching it every week. It's going to be going out to 20. So that information is going to hold a lot more value when it's in the hands of the few. So please consider joining the Patreon or the Dub Club. Links in the description of this video, and get access to tonight live version of Probability, which you will not be able to find on YouTube, 9:15 Central Time. All right, the next fight, Jared Gooden, plus 184. Kevin Jousset, minus 214. Fight doesn't go to decision. Just a little bit past 50-50 here at minus 135 for this fight. So this is a fun one. This is a great second fight on the card. I'm really looking forward to this one. We got a real veteran here in Jared Gooden with 32 professional fights, fighting a guy in Kevin Jousset with only 12 professional fights, but who's looked really good thus far in the UFC. So let me get a sip of water here, and let's break this fight down. All right. Trends. Jared Gooden made his UFC debut back in November of 2020. That was versus Alan Jouban, and he lost a unanimous decision in a banger of a fight. He went 1 win and 3 losses on his first UFC stint. His losses to Jouban, Abubakar Nurmagomedov, and Randy Rude Boy Brown All of those losses came by unanimous decision, and he had a first-round knockout win over Nick the Green Mask Stolze. Jared went back to the regional scene where he had a 4-1 stretch, with his only loss in that stretch coming by first-round knockout to Imper Kasanganay. And then Jared then lost a 30-27 unanimous decision in his UFC return. That was against Carlston Harris. He was a plus 240 underdog in that fight. And it was a fight he took on extremely short notice, where he missed weight by 6 pounds. He was taken down 5 times and controlled for almost 10 minutes by a really tough opponent in Carlston Harris there. But then he finished Wellington Turman next time out in the second round by rear naked choke. And that's a Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu black belt that he's submitting there. And that was as a plus 165 underdog. That was back in December, that fight. So Jared is going to be fighting the surging Australian fighter right now, Kevin Jousset. He's on a 5-fight win streak, and he is 2-0 so far in the UFC. And I said Australian fighter. He fights out of Australia, but Kevin is a French fighter. He's originally from France, but he's been training down at City Kickboxing in Australia with, a lot of Sanya and the boys. So Jousset is on a 5-fight winning streak. He's 2-0 so far in the UFC. He got a first round rear naked choke victory over Kiefer Crosby. That was in his UFC debut in Sydney, Australia. He was a minus 155 favorite. He followed that up with a dominant 30-27 unanimous decision win over veteran Song Kanan, where he outlanded Song 134-62 in significant strikes. Kevin is making the long trip to St. Louis to fight Jared Gooden. At the moment, Jousset is a decent-sized minus 245 favorite against the plus 210 underdog in Gooden. That's at the time of writing. Jared Gooden is the younger fighter in this one against Jousset. He is 6 months younger than Kevin, and he's going to have a 2-inch reach advantage here as well. And he's got the overall and UFC experience advantages. I mean, we're talking 20 fights and almost 3 more hours of pro cage time. And then he's also got 4 more fights at the UFC level than Kevin does, almost an hour more of octagon time. And when it comes to finishing ability, Jared is the more opportunistic finisher wherever the fight goes, in my opinion. He's got heavy hands and great kicks when he's at distance striking range. He's 11-2 to the knockout as a professional, and he's just as dangerous on the ground. He's actually 7 wins, 0 losses to the submission as a pro. He's powerful, he's opportunistic, and he's durable. He's only been finished in 2 of 9 pro losses, and he's finished 18 of his 23 pro wins inside the distance, and that's 7 submissions and 11 KOs. That's almost an 80% finish rate. And he's got the power advantage here. Jared isn't the best minute winner at range or in the grappling exchanges for that matter, but he does have fight-changing power. So he's happy to be patient, set up his counters because he trusts his chin to let him last until his opponent leaves that opening that he can take advantage of. And he's got the strength of schedule advantage here. Jared has fought the more experienced brand of UFC competition with the better win-loss ratios, and his regional scene strength of schedule is better than Kevin's as well. Kevin Jousset, though, is 2 inches taller than Jared Gooden. He is the better minute winner. Kevin has been a high-volume striker at the UFC level. He uses his length well. He mixes his weapons well. He's got a positive 3.1 distance striking differential in a small UFC sample size, and his accuracy at 53.5% at distance is 13% better than the divisional average. Kevin is also not given up 1 second of control time to his opponents yet in the UFC, while he's gotten a takedown of his own in each UFC fight, and he finished his only UFC submission attempt. So Kevin's a judo black belt. His kickboxing is technical, and he's fighting at a really good pace. So this is a very interesting fight. Jousset's a big favorite despite all the advantages that Gooden has on paper here. Gooden is younger and more experienced overall in the UFC, and that's a rare combination where you get the younger fighter being significantly more experienced and having fought the better brand of competition, and that's what we have on the Gooden side here. And he's got the power advantage as well, does Jared Gooden. This guy is the more powerful striker. Guy has got very heavy hands. He's very durable as well, and he's fought the better brand of competition. These are all excellent reasons to like an underdog's chances to win. But Jousset's last performance against Song Kanan opened a lot of eyes. He landed 134 significant strikes in 15 minutes and looked like his striking had taken the next step towards being elite for the division, but it was against Song Kanan, so I'm not sure how much we can take away from that performance. I think this fight is going to come down to the volume and range management of Jousset. If he can keep this at range and not allow Gooden to land a ton of calf kicks, he should be able to score more points at range. And Kevin's judo background has him being the more likely guy to get takedowns from the clinch. And I've never really been a fan of Jared Gooden's takedown defense. I think Kevin can win the minutes at range. I think he can win the minutes in the clinch due to that judo background that he can lean on. And on the mat, I think he probably is the guy that wins more minutes there because I just see Gooden as not having the best takedown defense, and he gives up a lot of time. You could see it right here. He's allowing 23.6% control time to his opponents while only getting 4.1% control time of his own. So even though the efficiency is actually pretty good because Jared just doesn't attempt offensive grappling that much, and his opponents are definitely attempting a lot against him, but he is giving up a significant amount of time on the ground. Let's see. What was I going to say here? I think Kevin can win the minutes at range in the clinch and on the mat, but I do rate Gooden's finishing ability as being better than Jousset's. So it's possible that Gooden can get outpointed over 3 rounds, but still win a damage-based decision. And we've seen damage is really reigning supreme here. So I think that's another reason to like the underdog here. I like the Jousset decision line at plus 165, and I like Gooden's finish-only prop at plus 170. I do think Jousset gets the win, but I do think that this fight looks closer than the line indicates it's going to be. So I think the Jared Gooden, I think on the money line, this is dog or pass. I think Jared Gooden's finish only prop at big plus money around plus 160, plus 170 is a pretty good look this week. And if I were taking that Jousset side, I'd be looking to take Jousset by decision at plus 165 rather than pay what? Minus, what are we looking at? Minus 214 on his money line, and I can get the decision prop at plus 165. Knowing that Jared Gooden's been only finished in 2 of 9 losses. Yeah, that's the way I would play this one. But the pick for this fight is going to be Kevin Jousset to win by decision. Let's see what you guys are saying in the chat about this one. Jousset win. There you go, my friend. I am predicting a Jousset win by decision. MetaHuman Project saying, I feel almost all the dogs can win or have a path to victory. That's why I love some of these live cards. They're more likely to put these compelling fights where the favorite's going to be minus 150 instead of minus 500. So that's what I like about this particular card. They've chosen to kind of make a lot more compelling matchups where both fighters can win, rather than the one-side steam merchants that they were when they're in Brazil and they're just trying to get those Brazilian fighters home wins. I'm on the next 3 dogs in a row after this fight, says JP Taylor. Gooden might make my card too. I think Gooden's a good dog play this week. Only 2 dogs hit last card, said MetaHuman Project. I think this one has at least 3 to 5 dogs hitting. This card is for betting sides more than props, in my opinion. Love cards like that. Yeah, that is pretty cool when you can do that. I think it's good for everything, to be honest, says the MetaHuman Project. And Andrew says less eyes on this card, not as much juice. And that's always a good thing, too, when the parlay boys don't come in here and destroy everything by running every favorite up to minus 600. All right, you guys, let's move on to the next fight here, where we have St. Louis's very own Charles Johnson, the plus 121 underdog. Skullet Gang, stand up. He's going to be going up against the English fighter, Jake Hadley, who's the minus 141 favorite here. Fight doesn't go to decision. Kind of big plus money here. The bookies are expecting this one to go to decision about 2/3 or more of the time. So we got fight doesn't go to decision here at plus 190 for this fight. let's get these stats up here for you guys. And let's talk about the trends for this fight after I get a little water here. Got to wet my whistle. All right. Let's talk about the trends first. Charles Johnson, 3-4 thus far in the UFC with wins over Azat Maksum as a plus 190 underdog. That was a 29-28 unanimous decision. Jimmy Flick by first round ground and pound knockout. He was a big favorite in that fight at minus 350. And then he got a split decision win over Zhalgas Zhumagulov. He was a minus 165 favorite in that fight. He did not look minus 165 in that fight. I had a money line ticket on Zhalgas there, plus 140 that didn't cash. But man, that fight was very, very close. It was a coin flip. Could have went either way. The losses for CJ come by unanimous decision to Muhammad Makayev, unanimous decision to Durden and Esteban, and he lost by split decision to Ode Osborne in another close fight. Charles got the win over Maxim back in February, and prior to that, he had lost 3 fights in a row. He's fighting in his home city of St. Louis against the UK's Jake Hadley, who's had a 2-2 run thus far in the UFC. He's a former Cage Warriors champion prior to his shot on Dana White's Contender Series. Hadley got a second round finish versus Mitch Raposo on Dana White's Contender Series to get his UFC contract. He then lost a 30-27 unanimous decision to Alan Nascimento in his UFC debut. He was a minus 210 favorite in that fight. And then he rattled off 2 straight finish wins, one versus Carlos Candelario by second round triangle. He was a minus 270 favorite in that fight. First round knockout over Malcolm Gordon. He was almost a minus 500 favorite in that spot. And then he's coming off a loss in an awesome fight against Cody Durden. Jake was a minus 200 favorite and had Cody in an armbar that I couldn't believe Cody didn't tap to it. But Jake lost a 30-27 unanimous decision to Durden and was taken down 4 times and controlled for almost 7.5 minutes in that fight. White Kong, Jake Hadley, a minus 160 favorite over the hometown favorite, and leader of the Skullet gang, Charles Johnson, plus 144 underdog at the time of writing, but now he's plus 121. So wrote this fight up a couple of days ago. A lot of money coming in on the hometown fighter right now in Charles Johnson. And here's why. He's 2 inches taller. He's a switch stance versus an orthodox fighter here. He's got the overall experience advantage, 8 more fights, 2 more hours of cage time. He's got the UFC experience advantage, 3 more UFC fights, 55 more minutes of octagon time than Hadley has. Conditioning for Charles Johnson. Charles is always on weight, and he's got a gas tank he can count on for at least 3 rounds, while Jake has brutal weight cuts and fades late in fights. Charles Johnson has the Olympic tattoo on his back. He was a steeplechase runner. So that's a long distance race with hurdles. And one of the hurdles has water after it that you land in. So it's like just a long distance running thing. So, I mean, obviously the guy has always had to have his cardio has always had to be on point. And you know that other than one fight, there was a fight recently. It was the Ode fight. I think he took it on short notice, and when you were really expecting him to turn up in the 3rd round and beat Ode, he looked slow in that fight. He didn't look like his cardio was where it should be for that fight. I know he took it on short notice, but other than that fight, Charles Johnson's cardio was something that you can always count on. And then striking. I mean, both these guys have excellent striking, but Charles is faster. I think he's more technical. He switches stances and he puts together combinations. He's got a solid positive 1.4 distance striking differential, way above average 52% accuracy at distance, and he's got solid 61.5% defense. Charles has got a great chin, and he's never been finished as a pro, so the dude is extremely durable, and he's got the strength of schedule advantage. He's fought the UFC competition overall with the better win-loss records in comparison to Jake Hadley. Now, Jake is 5.5 years younger, so that's something to like on the Hadley side. And he's got great finishing ability. He's 3-0 to the KO as a pro. He's 5-0 to the submission as a pro. He's never been finished, and he's got an 80% finish rate in 10 pro wins. He's also finished both of his UFC wins, and he finished his Dana White Contender Series win as well. This kid has landed 1 knockdown in his 4 UFC fights, while Charles has 0 knockdowns in 7 UFC fights. Jake is a very opportunistic submission grappler on the mat as well. We saw him submit Candelario with a triangle choke and Raposo with a rear naked choke on Dana White Contender Series. And we all remember the nasty armbar he had Cody Durden in. Jake is a very dangerous on the mat, and if he can get the fight there, Charles will have to be very defensively responsible while he's there, and Jake is going to have the volume advantage. Jake stays super busy at range while it takes Charles a while to get going. Even though it's in a smaller sample size, Jake has attempted over 5 more distance strikes per minute than Charles has, and he's flashed power while we haven't really seen that yet from Charles. So I think this one's going to be a banger. It should be a high-volume, all-action war. I like Hadley to land the bigger shots at range and be the more dangerous submission grappler in this fight. I love the fact that Jake is 5.5 years younger and the much more dangerous finisher, but CJ's more experienced overall and in the UFC. He's durable as fuck, so I don't see Jake getting a finish. And if the fight stays standing, it's anyone's guess who wins this fight because both guys can win minutes and moments at range. We haven't seen Jake wrestle offensively yet in the UFC, but he did get a takedown against Mitch Raposo on Dana White's Contender Series, and he wound up getting a rear naked choke finish as a result of that takedown. And in Cage Warriors, you see Jake going to his wrestling quite a bit, so there's a possibility that we see Jake wrestle against Johnson, whose takedown defense and ability to limit his opponent's control time has been trash at the UFC level. The bookies see this fight going to decision 7 out of 10 times. So whoever lands the bigger shots, along with who wins the minutes at range and on the mat, should get the nod here. And I'm going to lean with the youth, the output, the superior grappling game and power advantage that Hadley has here. And I'm going to pick Jake Hadley to win this fight by decision. So let's go here to Tapology. Jake Hadley, White Kong, to come into St. Louis and upset the apple cart and beat Energy Charles Johnson. Let's see what you guys have to say about this in the chat. We got Call Me Husker saying something about Hadley's gas tank doesn't sit well with me. I could see Johnson grinding out Hadley to a decision win. Yeah, I could see that too. And it's going to be important to see what Jake looks like on the scale because, like I mentioned, Charles is a professional. He always comes in on weight and ready to go, and he's a big flyweight. But Jake missed weight on Dana White's Contender Series. Jake has missed weight at least once I think this might be 3 weight misses for Jake Hadley, including Dana White's Contender Series, because he definitely missed weight the last time out, said he saw God during the weight cut. Hadley is a massive flyweight. So, yeah, seeing how Hadley looks on the scale is going to be huge. And if he looks like trash, like he almost died on the scale, I think Charles Johnson by decision will be the pick from there on out. But right now, I'm just going to assume that Jake's going to be okay. But that's just an assumption. You know, I have no way of knowing how he's going to look on the scales on Friday. A Covert Beast said, why is he called White Kong when he looks more like Gumby? Well, this is what happens, Covert Beast, when you're allowed to give yourself nicknames. In my day, you couldn't give yourself a nickname. If you came to school one day, you know, and said, I got a suggestion for what everyone should call me. You should all call me this awesome name. Most times people are going to be like, how about we call you Loser? You know, and then you wind up being called Loser, you know, because you're trying to give yourself a nickname. But that's the great thing about MMA. You're a professional fighter. You can give yourself whatever nickname you want. And 99% of men out there wouldn't have the guts to tell you to your face that your nickname is ass. So that's why he's called White Kong. Brady's hoping that his Skullet Gang merch arrives before fight time. That would be awesome, dude. Let's get you some Skullet Gang merch, man. And let's get Brady a skullet. That would be great. I know that he's got one of the best barbers in the entire country. So I know that my man Brady could pull off a great skullet. Covert Beast saying Johnson's going to win this one easy. JP Taylor saying I snagged the plus 140 on both Johnson and Goff. I'm killing CLV trophies as of late. We got Glenbot in the room. Good to see you hanging out, Glenbot. Thanks for joining us, man. Covert saying there's no way a dude from St. Louis loses to a skinny white boy. We got DFS saying Johnson live bet after losing round one. That's not a bad look at all, because Johnson's going to have that cardio, and it does take him a minute to kind of turn up and go. And that's what we saw him do in the Moxham fight, was lose first round badly, almost get finished a couple of times, but then come back and win the second and the third. Dude could have a full head of hair and he does that shit to himself. Yeah, that's probably true, man. Johnson has the hog advantage. Vidtech saying, looking to sprinkle Johnson round 3 KO. Yeah, that's not a bad look, man. I don't mind that. Uncle Weezy Tales from high school. Yeah, I never tried to give myself a nickname, though, you guys. I promise you. Like, Weezy was a nickname that that just like stuck in college for me. You know, I mean, like, I did not intend for anybody to call me Weezy, but you know, you don't get to choose your own nickname. Covert Beast is laughing. We got Meta Human Project saying, bro, Johnson can't grow a full head of hair. Look at his hairline. It's gone. I mean, like, yeah, dude, the Tapology picture, though, look at that. You know, I mean, there's a full head of hair there. That's for sure. But evidently that one might be old. So that's why he's rocking the skullet. Yeah, old pick on Tapology for sure, dude. All right, well, let's move on here. We got 160 of you live hanging out here. Hit that thumbs up. Hit that subscribe. Join the Patreon. Be there 9:15 Central Time tonight for a subscribers-only version of Probability. And leave me a comment down below. I love talking with you guys. And my guy Genova7 in the room saying, easy, breezy, wheezy. Let's go, Genova. Good to see you hanging out in here, my man. All right, let's move on. Billy Goff versus Trey Waters. I love this fight. Billy Goff is the plus 136 underdog. We have got Trey Waters is going to be the minus 156 favorite. Fight doesn't go to decision for this fight at minus 205. So this is going to be an absolute banger. Let's talk about the trends for this fight. Billy Goff is currently on a 7-fight winning streak. He's 9-2 as a professional. He was the CES 170 and 185 pound champions, which allowed him to get his shot on Dana White's Contender Series versus Szymon Smotrzycki. Goff was minus 220 versus Szymon. He got dropped early into the fight, but pushed through and wound up finishing Szymon 3 minutes and 37 seconds into the first round by breaking him with forward pressure and volume. Goff then got his win as a plus 110 underdog to Yusaku Kinoshita in Singapore in his UFC debut, with yet another first-round finish where Goff won the pressure battle and he finished Kinoshita almost 4 minutes into round one. And Goff is going to be facing off against Trey Waters, who's 1-0 in the UFC. He's 8-1 as a professional. Trey won a 30-27 unanimous decision versus Josh Quinlan in his UFC debut. He was a plus 145 underdog in that spot. Trey's only career loss came on Dana White's Contender Series versus Gabriel Bonfim. He tapped to a Von Flue choke after using a guillotine as takedown defense there. Waters was a plus 250 underdog in that spot, so the outcome wasn't surprising. But Trey's going to be a minus 160-ish favorite here over Billy Goff, the 136 underdog here. So Billy Goff is a young man. He is 3.5 years younger than Trey Waters is. He's got a slight pro experience advantage in addition to being the younger guy. Is he's got 2 more fights and 15 more minutes of pro cage time than Billy. Also 1 more year as a pro fighter. And with Billy, what this dude brings is pace, pressure, output, and durability. Goff fights with a certain style that highlights his strengths. Billy's durable, he's got excellent conditioning, and he uses that combination of attributes to fight with a pressure and output heavy style. He stays in the face of his opponents by walking them down. He throws a ton of volume while doing so, and even though he's fairly hittable, he's very durable and he has great recoverability, so he leans on that while drowning his opponents in pressure and volume. It's a very difficult style to deal with. Waters is a very long and technical striker who does his best work when he controls the distance and manages range with his jab and his kicks. But Goff has the perfect offensive style to make Waters very uncomfortable by pressuring the taller, longer, and more technical fighter which will negate the reach advantage that Waters has. And grappling, I think the advantage goes to Goff. Seeing anyone get submitted by a Von Flue choke at the UFC level is very disturbing. Goff definitely should be the fighter that's more likely to win minutes with his clinch and grappling games in this matchup. We saw Waters get dominated by Benjamin Bennett in LFA, but he got saved by the ref 4 different times in round number 3 on his way to finding a step-in knee that finished the fight in the last 30 seconds of round number 3. Then we saw Trey get Von Flued on Dana White's Contender Series. Goff is going to mix in the clinch game and takedown attempts, so I see him wearing on Trey here, not allowing him to box at range where he's best suited to fight. But Trey Waters is a massive welterweight, 6'5", 77-inch reach. He's going to be 7 inches taller and have a 4.5-inch reach advantage over Billy Goff. Trey's definitely got the striking advantage here. He's a problem at range. He's tall. He's long. He uses that length very well. And those long limbs of his allow him to get submissions in ways that others can't. Trey's very good at range. He has a stiff jab. He does a good job of getting the respect of his opponents when they try to close range. And he does an excellent job of being the one to pressure at distance so that he can get his opponents on the back foot, dictate the range he wants to fight at, and then he can set up his counters when he's doing that as well. I mean, I love this fight. I think both of these fighters have bright futures in front of them in this organization. Billy is still only 25 and Trey's only 29. They're still young in their careers, but both of their regional scene strength of schedule is solid, and both guys won their UFC debut. And for Goff, it was in Singapore against an Asian opponent, so those were particularly difficult circumstances to come through as an underdog. And Billy not only did that, but he did it in style. This fight comes down to whether Trey can get Billy's respect and find ways to maintain distance striking range. If he keeps this at range and maintains the distance he needs, he should absolutely piece up Billy at range and make this look easy. And if Billy gets sloppy at trying to close range, he could walk onto a big counter right hand or step in knee that could end his night. And Trey is 3-1 to the submission as a pro, while Billy is 0 wins and 0 losses to the sub. So if Billy gets sloppy on a takedown attempt, I could see Trey locking up a guillotine. I love Billy's style, and I think he has the perfect style to give a fighter that needs space like Trey serious problems. Go watch that Kinoshita Goff fight. That fight was about who was going to get on the front foot. Both fighters tried. Goff prevailed. And once Billy got on that front foot and won that pressure battle, he beat 7 shades of shit out of Kinoshita. Billy has the pressure, the conditioning, the output, and the chin necessary to get Trey on his back foot, land the bigger shots, wear on Trey in the clinch, potentially get a takedown or two, and fight the fight that Trey doesn't thrive in. I think that this should be lined closer to 50-50, yet Trey's a -160 favorite. I love the value on the Goff side here. Stylistically, this is a bad matchup, in my opinion, for Trey Waters. I think Billy Goff's going to win this one and win it inside the distance. I'm picking Billy Goff to break Trey Waters with that pressure, with that volume, with that boxing, and potentially with some takedowns and ground and pound as well. And I'm picking Goff KO round 2 here. I love this fight, though. This is an amazing fight. Let's see. What do we got? We need a Weezy story time in this episode, please, says my guy Gerald. I don't have one. I don't have one this week, but there's 13 fights on this card, so we're going to be going long. But I am going to be looking going forward to shorten up just the tip. It's just entirely too long. So I'm thinking about like filming it in advance and then cutting it down and making it a little more digestible for just the tip. Let just the tip actually be just the tip of the stats, and then go balls deep breakdown for the Patreon members like I do in here every week. But yeah, we'll do a story time with Uncle Weezy soon. I promise you that. Weezy looking very Hugh Hefner today. Thank you so much. This is my grandfather's smoking jacket here. It's a classic, bought in the 1950s. So, yes, this is definitely a classic look, just like Hugh Hefner used to employ. We got live from the Playboy Mansion, says Tuyo Phillips. Love it, man. We got Dale in the room saying, "Oi, Weezy, you're an OG, man. We'll catch us on replay later. Cheers for the content. Thank you for joining us, Dale. Enjoy the content, man. Always good to see people. I've never heard from you before, so always good to see new people in here hanging out. That's why I love doing the show in the days sometimes. Get to see some people that we don't normally see when I'm doing it 10 o'clock Central Time on a Tuesday. Covert Beast has Goff here. I was with the original Wheeze on Monday. Oh, no kidding. How about that? Pauly Shore, Wheeze in the juice. We got Covert Beast saying, good, just needs one moment. Waters needs 15 minutes. Yes. Goff, he's saying just needs one moment. What do I think about violence here? I think the fight doesn't go to decision at minus 205 is a great straight bet, and I think it's a great parlay piece as well. Always beat line, always bet the moments. Yeah, dude, these days, Covert Beast, that's what you need to do. Mahler Lipsky in the room saying Goff is a fraud. He'll get exposed against that long-ass jab. Yeah, I mean, like, Waters is a tough opponent. David versus Goliath here for sure. I think Goff could really get down on some body shots when he's pressuring Waters on the feet. Yes, Waters does have very skinny arms. You can't be 6'5", 170 and have a ton of muscle on your frame. We got Covert saying being Asian is the worst base for MMA. Tell that to Tatsuro Taira, man. We got Mahler saying Waters by round one jab in this spot. We got Benino saying Goff does not stop throwing. Could be a good live bet. Yeah, I think so too. Wow, says Andrew G. Cody's calls in the room saying, yo, what's up, Cody? We got Robert saying Goff all day. Parlay with Charles. Nicknames in New York, Queens were earned, not given. Yes, sir. I hear you, man. You know, they are earned. You don't just get them, you know, like a lot of times, man, especially if you want to get your own nickname, you better go out there and earn it. Meaning you can't give yourself the nickname. Yeah, this generation is weak. Yeah, dude, you can't give yourself a nickname. You still can't give yourself a nickname, man. That still doesn't fly in most places. Nobody's getting away with giving themselves nicknames, you know? I mean, I can call myself the Hugh Hefner of MMA Twitter, and people will be like, well, then where's all your bitches? You know, all I see behind you is a bunch of records and a picture of Tony Montana. Where's all your hoes? You know, and they'd be right. You know, there's no hoes in here that I know. No, there's none. You know, so I can't just give myself nicknames like that. Neither can you guys. You can't give yourself nicknames either, dude. This is bullshit. I'm with Robert on this one. But anyway, let's move on to the next fight, you guys. It is going to be Tabatha Ricci versus Tecia, the Tiny Tornado Torres. We got Ricci is a minus 142 favorite here. Tecia Torres plus 122 underdog. Fight doesn't go to decision for this fight at plus 275. Let's get these stats up on the screen. Now, Tabatha's much younger, and for once, she's not going to be smaller than her opponent. Tabatha Ricci is going to have a 1-inch reach advantage in this fight, which is something that we're never going to see. But it's Tecia who's got the experience advantage, not only just overall, but at the UFC level with 9 more fights, 130 more minutes of cage time. The finishers, you know, these ladies really don't finish fights at this level. And at volume, both throw a lot of volume. Neither one of them has a whole lot of power, but Tecia does a great job of winning minutes at distance striking range. See this number right down here is the distance striking differential, and she lands 2.4 more distance strikes per minute than she absorbs. Well, Tabatha Ricci is actually absorbing 1.2 more strikes per minute than she lands. But if you throw out that Menifield fight up at 125 in her debut, I'm sure that those numbers would look a lot better. But still, you know, this is Tecia over a 15-fight sample size is looking really good in the distance striking numbers and in her ability to be able to win minutes there. And Ticia's got a pretty good grappling efficiency rating here. She's getting about 50% of the control time positions. but Tabatha does a much better job. You know, she's very aggressive with the wrestling, attempting 8.2 takedowns per 15 minutes, while Torres only has 61.5% takedown defense. So while this is at range, I think it's going to be close. I don't know which one of them is going to get the job done better, but I do think that Tabatha is just right now a little bit better overall in terms of her ability to be able to be fast, be elusive, and also get those takedowns should the fight be close on the feet. I think Tabatha is more likely to offensively go to the wrestle and offensively win minutes in the grappling exchanges. And I know that she's the better submission grappler here. She's definitely has that as a background. Definitely a high-level submission grappler, just not only in MMA, but outside of MMA, judo, Brazilian jiu-jitsu. So, and with Tabatha being 5 years younger here, she's been a lot more active lately, as we see right here, a key statistic. We haven't seen the tiny tornado Tecia Torres in 2 years, and she is coming off having a baby. So these are all narrative questions that kind of get thrown into the mix here that have to affect how you cap the fight. But whenever I have big narrative issues in a fight, it always kind of keeps me away from betting it because I very rarely know how to cap those narrative issues. And I find that trying to pick fights based off of narrative issues rather than what you've seen in the cage and what you know about the statistics of both fighters up until that point in all areas is a bit of a fool's errand. But when in doubt, which I'm in doubt when it comes to this fight, I'll go with the youth, I'll go with the volume, and I'll go with that grappling upside that Tabatha Ricci has, and I'll go with the fact that, yeah, she's younger and she's not on a 2-year layoff, and she didn't just have a baby. So this is one that I'm probably going to stay away from gambling-wise, but I do think that the responsible pick is Tabatha Ricci to win this one by decision. Let's see what you all are saying in the chat about this fight. Robert's new nickname is the Salad Boy. Roberts? Robert who? Robert Whitaker? Robert. I don't know what you're talking about. Roosevelt Roberts? Is it? Oh, not Robert Saladino. He's not the Salad Boy. That's bullshit, dude. I like Salad Boy as a nickname, though. We got Charlton Miles in the room saying, "Oi, salute, Unc. Thanks always, man. Thank you for hanging out, Charlton. Good to see you." We got T.O. Phillips in the room saying the bitches are on the yacht doing statistical modeling. That is right, T.O. Phillips. My man's been watching. He's been watching. We got JP Taylor saying the Instagram pics of Torres convinced me to bet her. Plus money women's MMA. Yeah, she does look absolutely yoked right now, but she's always looked great. Alex Ramirez, the general in the room. Stand up, General. What's up? Good to see you hanging out here. We got Justin saying, Weezy, the MMA Hefner, your future Just the Tips should have a picture of you with ladies around you like Makwan Amirkhani, my favorite tapology picture of all time, Makwan Amirkhani. Not the best fighter that the UFC's ever seen, but definitely the UFC's best tapology picture by a mile. She popped out a bebe. Yeah, she did. She did. Big ups, Uncle Weezy says, my guy Jack Attack MMA, one of the top bettors in this space. The guy's made more units than most people have had hot meals in their life. Check out Jack Attack MMA. Always good to have Jack Attack in here. Good to see you, brother. We got Brava 2001 saying Tecia plus 3.5 points. Handicap going to hit very nicely, and I think it will because this is going to be a close fight. So when you get that 3.5 points handicap on the underdog in a fight that's kind of probably going to be a coin flip when it gets to the judges, especially if Tecia Torres comes back and looks like the Tecia Torres we saw 2 years ago against Mackenzie Dern, I think that will look very good for sure. All right, let's move on to the next fight as we have got Terrance T-Rex McKinney plus 141 going up against Esteban El Gringo Ribovics minus 161 under 1.5 rounds because we have no props on this fight is minus 235. You guys, if I could get you guys just to write shame in the chat, shame on Bet Online. Let's look here. Before we shame them, let's just make sure that they haven't rectified. Nope, they have not rectified this situation. It is Wednesday afternoon. We are 72 hours out from UFC fights, and we have no props on the Esteban Ribovics versus Terrance McKinney fight. Shame, Bet Online. Shame. Shame. You should be ashamed of yourselves. You're supposed to be the market maker. Make the fucking market. And then what you do is you put low limits on it and you let the market move it to wherever they're going to move it. But for shame. Shame, Bet Online. How do you not have props out on this banger of a fight on a live card, UFC St. Louis? Right now, Nelly is somewhere in St. Louis with a Band-Aid under one of his eyes going, why the hell can I not bet on Terrance McKinney to win in round 1 on Bet Online? And you did that to Nelly. Those tears that are going to be rolling down his face because he can't bet this fight and loosening the Band-Aid that's underneath his eye, that's on you, Bet Online. I hope you're happy. I'm not happy about it, but here we go. We'll get these stats up here for you guys. I'm ready. I mean, just because they don't have props up doesn't mean your Uncle Weezy hasn't written this fight up. So let's talk about the trends. Terrance McKinney's on a 2-fight win streak right now over Brendan Marat, first round ground and pound knockout in 20 seconds. He was a massive minus 550 favorite there. And also Mike Breeden by KO in the first round as well. He was a minus 275 favorite in that fight. Prior to that, Terrance had lost 3 of his last 4 fights, with the only win in that stretch coming over Eric the Ghost Pepper Gonzalez, and he was a minus 900 favorite, was Terrance, in that win. So losses were to Nazim Sadikov by second-round submission, Ismail Bonfim by second-round flying knee, and Drew Dober by first-round knockout. Terrance is a killer-be-killed fighter. He's never seen the scorecards in 21 pro fights. He has about 3 minutes of fight in him, and if he can't get a finish in that time frame, he looks for a way out, as illustrated by his 100% finish rate against in his 6 pro losses. He'll be fighting a guy in Esteban Ribovics who has finished 11 of his 12 pro wins, and he's 1-1 thus far in the UFC. Esteban has a 29-28 unanimous decision loss to Loic Rajabov as a plus 400 underdog, and a 29-28 unanimous decision win over Kemuela Kirk as a minus 175 favorite. Esteban had to pull out of his scheduled bout with Elvis Brenner in November of 2023, so now he's on a 10-month layoff and facing off against Terrance McKinney as a minus 168 favorite. The comeback on McKinney is plus 148. Now, Terrance is going to have a 4-inch reach advantage here. He's definitely the more athletic guy. He's explosive. He's a phenomenal athlete, a very high-level wrestler, incredible speed and power, and he's finished 100% of his pro wins inside the distance. He's got 8 submissions and 7 knockouts. 14 of those 15 finishes coming in round number 1. He's got the power advantage here. The guy has 1 punch or kick KO power, as we saw in the Matt Frevola fight, as we saw in the Tavino-Gavino fight. All it takes is 1 clean shot from Terrance early in a fight, and your night is done. Terrance has brutal step-in knees. When he digs to the body, he's nasty. That straight left hand is extremely powerful. Just ask Matt Frevola. And that head kick of his is absolutely nasty. And you could ask Tovino Gavino if he could still speak after getting his head punted into the 5th row by Terrance McKinney. So wrestling also goes to Terrance. I mean, he's a high-level wrestler with a dangerous submission game early in fights when he still has energy. He can not only get takedowns easily, but he can advance position and threaten submissions. Terrance is 8-2 to the submission as a professional. And in the UFC, he's averaging 3.3 takedowns per 15 minutes on 8.5 attempts, and he outcontrols his opponents 49% to 9%, winning 84% of the control time positions in his fights. And the strength of schedule advantage goes to McKinney as well. He's got 6 more fights at the UFC level He's fought, beaten, and lost to the more experienced brand of UFC competition with the better win-loss records. Now, El Gringo Ribovics is going to be 1.5 years younger, and he's going to have the conditioning, the heart, and the durability advantages here. And you just got to think about how huge that is in a Terrance McKinney fight, a guy who has no heart, no durability, and no conditioning. Everywhere that Terrance is weak, Esteban is strong. I mean, these are all areas where Esteban is very strong, where McKinney is about as weak as it gets. McKinney is uncomfortable with fighting. He looks to get out of the cage as quickly as humanly possible, win or lose. While Esteban has got a heart as big of a truck, he's got no quit in him at all, and he can push a crazy pace for 15 minutes. And if you don't believe me, look here. Terrance McKinney, 21 fights, 15-6. Average fight time over 21 minutes is 2.7 minutes per fight. If that's not the picture of somebody that's just uncomfortable with the act of fighting, please tell me what is. I mean, that's just getting out of that cage as soon as fucking possible. And Esteban Ribovics is the exact opposite of that. He will get you out of that cage quickly, but you're not getting him out of that cage quickly. That's very difficult to do. So being able to count on someone to survive the early storm from McKinney is a huge factor in successfully capping his fights. And Esteban should be able to do that. He's got the heart, the conditioning, the submission defense, and the chin to last with Terrance and break him in the second. The minute winning and striking exchanges is on Esteban Ribovics. Ribovics throws a crazy amount of volume, 20.8 distance strike attempts per minute, and he's landing at over 50%. So it's not easy to hold up under that kind of pressure and pace. Esteban is landing a knockdown on 0.6% of the distance strikes that he lands, and he's 6-0 to the knockout as a pro, so he can also win moments as well as minutes with his striking due to how much volume he throws and how that can break down his opponents later on in fights. Excuse me. So I've always loved watching McKinney's killer be killed style, and Ribovics' two UFC fights so far versus Rajabov and Kirk were instant classics. So how could you not love this fight? Terrance is so dangerous and explosive early in fights, but that kind of explosivity doesn't go along with endurance and pacing himself. Has never been his strong suit. Ribovics has that dog in him. He absolutely has the ability to fight through adversity. He has a chin. His submission defense is held up pretty good so far, and his conditioning is top-notch. So he has something left in the tank to make a comeback if he loses some minutes or the first round. And like Terrance, he's dangerous wherever the fight goes, and he's got a balanced amount of knockouts and submissions. I parlayed the under 1.5 rounds in this fight at -225 because I think both fighters are live for a finish in the first, and I could see Ribovics getting a second round finish after McKinney gasses or adrenaline dumps in front of the live crowd. I love everything I've seen from Ribovics in terms of being the type of fighter that can survive the early storm against McKinney. He has the submission defense, the chin, the cardio, and the heart to push through what will be a very difficult first round against Terrance McKinney. And every time I've seen Terrance in his second round, he's looked lost and like a shadow of the fighter we saw in the first round. I love this spot for Ribovics. This fight is going to be a massive crowd pleaser, and it's tailor-made matchup for Ribovics to get a spectacular finish. It needs to be said, though, that no matter how good your chin is, Terrance is the kind of explosive athlete that could flatline anyone if he lands right. So there is no such thing as an easy first round against Terrance McKinney. But I do think El Gringo survives the early onslaught, and then he gets a late first or second round finish in this fight. The pick is going to be Esteban El Gringo Ribovics to win by second round knockout. Ribovics KO round 2. Guys are killing it in the chat Let's see here. We got fight goes to decision at minus 360. Seems like a parlay piece for the last fight. Yes, not for this fight, T.O. Phillips, but for the last fight. Yeah, that would be a pretty good parlay piece. For Shane Bet Online. Yeah, isn't that crazy? I mean, you don't have props on this fight yet. Ribovics round 2 KO at plus 550 at Bet Online. Then they got scared. Yeah, man. Ribovics got taken down 11 times against a short notice Rajabov. Give me McKinney by round 2 sub. We've got Alex Ramirez saying press the like button. We got Olajuwon Dream saying stabbing the over with my ass cheeks clenched. Yes, sir. There's no other way to do an over in a McKinney fight. No second round will probably be something stupid like minus 200. Yeah, it's juiced up. McKinney round 1 is plus 240 on DraftKings. So DraftKings open props. Okay, cool. Yeah, dude, let's get it this weekend, Jack. I know you're going to. I'm going to try to do the same, man. Brava saying, I feel like Ribovics relies on his toughness too much, and that has a chance to be exploited here early by T-Rex. Absolutely. T-Rex is so explosive. DK does have props for this one. No second round, minus 165. Not good enough. The Carlos Ulberg line is getting very juicy. That's for sure. Esteban round 1, plus 120. That's terrible. Yeah. Ribovics, says Andrew G. Oi, teach me how to shave acid picking. Keep watching, my man. Keep watching. That's how we do it. Yes, and Gerald saying shame. He's with me on this one. Shame Bet Online. And McKinney catches the most checks in one UFC calendar year. Yeah, he does, man. All right, you guys, let's move on to this next fight. As it is going to be Chase the Dream Hooper going up against Viacheslav Borshchev. We got Borshchev, the minus 136 favorite. Hooper, the plus 116 dog. Fight doesn't go to decision. Juiced up to minus 325 for this fight. Let's get the advanced matchup here for you guys. And let's first start talking about the trends. Chase Hooper is on a 2-fight winning streak right now, and he's won 3 of his last 4 fights. He's got a first-round rear naked choke against Jordan Levitt as a minus 220 favorite. He's got a unanimous decision win over Nick Fiore as a plus 110 underdog. And before that, he disappointed juice bettors by getting knocked out in the first round versus Steve Garcia as a minus 300 favorite. And before that, he looked incredible against Felipe Colares. Rest in peace, Felipe Colares, and got a third-round ground and pound finish as a plus 155 underdog. So this is a striker versus grappler matchup, and the striker in Viacheslav Borshchev will be facing off against the grappler in Chase Hooper here. Slava so far is 2 wins, 2 losses, and 1 draw in the UFC. He's coming off an incredible fight that ended in a draw versus Nazim Sadikov back in November, where Slava showed massive heart, durability, and recoverability. Slava was a plus 115 underdog in that fight. Before that, Slava got a second-round knockout win over Mahashate as a minus 160 favorite. And prior to that, Slava lost back-to-back fights. They were both unanimous decisions against Mike Davis as a plus 160 underdog and against Mark Diakese as a minus 140 favorite. Over that 2-fight stretch against Davis and Diakese, Slava was taken down 20 times on 29 attempts in 2 fights. And in those 2 fights, he was controlled for over 20 minutes. So this is going to be a compelling striker versus grappler matchup. That's a throwback to the early days of MMA. Chase Hooper plus 116 and Borshchev minus 136 here. So Chase Hooper's got a ton of advantages in this fight. First of all, he's 7.5 years younger. That's statistically significant. He's 2 inches taller. He's got a 5-inch reach advantage. That's statistically significant. Southpaw versus Orthodox is statistically significant. He's got the pro experience advantage, 6 more fights, an hour more cage time. He's got the UFC experience advantage, 3 more fights, 25 more minutes of octagon time. And obviously, Chase Hooper is going to have the grappling advantage. He does rely on volume on the feet, and his ground game in order to win, but he's not going to last long in distance with Slava. So Chase is going to look to grapple here. He's getting 1.7 takedowns per 15 minutes. He controls his opponent's 27% of his total cage time. He spends 55% of his octagon time in control time positions. And that's a good number to have against an opponent like Slava. And he's 6-0 to the sub. And he's 2-0 in the UFC to the sub. So he's super aggressive on the mat, attempting over 2 submissions per 15 minutes. And he's got the strength of schedule advantage as well. He's fought the more experienced brand of UFC competition on the aggregate, and his wins are slightly better according to my metric as well. However, neither guy has good UFC wins yet. Now, Borshchev is going to have the striking advantage here, and the striking differential is massive. Slava's a world-class kickboxer, and Chase Hooper has 42% striking defense at distance. Slava's landing 9.7 distance strikes per minute, and he's only absorbing 4.6. He's got a positive 5.1 distance striking differential. He's got 57% accuracy and 65% defense. Slava's 6-0 to the knockout as a pro. He's 2-0 in the UFC to the knockout, and he's landed 4 knockdowns and only absorbed 1. Slava's going to beat 7 shades of shit out of Chase Hooper if he can keep this fight on the feet. But whether he can pull that off or not is going to be the most compelling question in this fight. Borshchev has definitely got the durability advantage here. Both guys have great chins, but Hooper has been knocked down 4 times in the UFC, while Slava has only been dropped once, and Slava's never been finished as a pro, while we've seen Hooper has been knocked out by Steve Garcia. And if you look at the last 5 strength of schedule for Borshchev compared to Hooper, I'll give Borshchev the advantage with Bush, Diakese, Davis, Mahashate, and Sadikov. I think that's better than Stephen Ocho Peterson, rest in peace Felipe Colares, Steve Garcia, Nick Fiore, and Jordan Levitt. So I think that while the metrics have Borshchev or they have Hooper with the better strength of schedule, fighting the more experienced guys and having the better wins, I think it's Borshchev who's got the better strength of schedule overall and lately. And this is such good matchmaking, giving us the old school striker versus grappler matchup, but doing it with style. Both of these guys are all action. They force wars and are in fan-friendly fights. So many reasons to like the Hooper side here. He's 7.5 years younger, 2 inches taller, 5-inch reach advantage. He's a southpaw. He's more experienced overall and in the UFC. He's the better grappler, and he's fought higher-level guys for longer just due to being in the UFC for longer. But Slava's a menace on the feet. He has fast hands. He attacks all targets on the body, from the legs to the body to the head. He has a ton of heart. He's so hard to finish, and the conditioning is there to go a hard 3 rounds. Chase is going to pressure nonstop and put a pace on Borshchev. The pace this kid puts on wherever the fight goes is the hardest part of his attack to deal with. On the feet, he walks forward and attempts 16 distance strikes per minute. He attempts 7 takedowns per 15 minutes, and he attempts 2.1 submissions per 15 minutes. He has a solid chin. His ability to scramble nonstop on the mat without getting tired is mind-blowing. And I honestly have no clue who's going to win this fight. I could see it going so many different ways. But one thing I know for sure is this fight's going to be awesome. I feel as if Slava can be hard enough to submit on the ground, can get back up when he's taken down, and I'm confident he lands the much bigger shots on the feet. I think he probably finds Chase's liver, shuts down one of his legs, or finds the chin and finishes this kid. But I think the line should be closer to 50-50. Chase has too many on-paper advantages to ignore here. We know Slava's takedown defense is subpar, and Chase never stops bringing offense. So Slava better shut this kid off early, or he won't fuck off, and he could make this very sweaty down the stretch, especially when it goes to the ground. Hell of a fight. Can't wait to watch it. Really have no confidence in the pick here. But the pick is going to be Viacheslav Borshchev to win by KO in round number 1. What do you guys think? This is a baller fight. Slava Claus, says Robert Gerard. Hang on just a sec here, you guys. You got to be kidding me. Let's see. Let's see. Robert saying, how's it going, Uncle Weezy? We got Russian Power, says Andrew G. Played the under 1.5 in this one. I like that. Also want to play round 1 KO for Slava and round 1 sub for Chase. This is a betting channel for sure, Robert. Chase is also a weakling. He's getting stronger, man. He's growing into that man body of his. He's moved up from 145 to 155. He's tall for the division. He's got crazy conditioning. This fight is extremely split, and everyone is extremely overconfident in their side. Yeah, man, I'm not confident in this side. That is for sure. I am very, very unconfident. JP saying, got my CLV trophy on this one too. On Cooper plus 135. I'm going to need a mantle at this rate. You got to love beating the line, man. It's always a good thing. I think Slava's body work can lead to finish, but staying away from this outside DraftKings lineups, I think it's a perfect fight to target in DraftKings. Cuddles saying, oi, Chase Screech Powers, Hooper getting KO'd. It certainly could happen, man. Slava Claus, we got Genova saying Christmas might come early this year. Slava Claus is going to come down the old chimney and deliver some knockouts for people that are betting on him. Potential Hooper ground and pound KO as well. That is on the table. His ground and pound is nasty. This will be a laser ass hair removal procedure by Slava. Robert saying Tanner Claus is going to be KOing this nerd. Zero muscle, says Robert. Thanks, Uncle. Better time for who lives in Brazil. Good to hear that, man. I love my Brazilian people. So Leonardo Guimarães, welcome. Obrigado for showing up to your Uncle Weezy's special afternoon presentation of Just the Tip. Benino saying someone's going to make it look easy. That's for sure. That's probably the case here, man. Martinez should fight Giannis again for an easy leg kick win. Dude sucked against Aldo. Yeah, he did. Aldo's a legend, though. Slava Claus versus Jiu-Jitsu Elf. Yeah, I don't have much confidence in either side, but love the under. Yeah, dude, popcorn muscles on that. How does he get him down? It should be easy, dude. He's got terrible takedown defense to Slava. So yeah, you can get him with body lock trips. That's how Chase usually gets them. How do we make Chase Man Body Hooper official? It's going to take some time. He's still a very young man. Chase decision might be sneaky because Mike Davis didn't sub Slava, and I rate his ground game. Yeah, his defense is decent. His get-up game is decent, but the takedown defense is bad. All right, let's move on to this next fight as we have got Waldo, Salsa Boy, Cortes-Acosta at plus 195 going up against Robelis Despaigne and minus 230. Ladies and gentlemen, this is Dominican Republic versus Cuba, where we're going to find out once and for all which one of these countries is the better country. And it will be decided by these two gentlemen on Saturday. And we're better placed to settle this argument than St. Louis, Missouri, ladies and gentlemen. Cortes-Acosta versus Despaigne. Costa the underdog, plus 195. Robelis, minus 230. Fight doesn't go to decision. Juice to the tits at minus 800 for this fight, but I get it. Let's first start talking about the trends for this fight after I get a little water. Waldo is 11-1 as a pro. He's 4-1 thus far in the UFC, and he's currently on a 2-fight winning streak. He won a unanimous decision over Andrei Arlovsky as a minus 750 favorite, which wound up being a very close fight. And that was on the heels of a first-round KO over Lucas Bresky as a minus 225 favorite. Waldo's only pro loss came before the Bresky fight against Marcos Rogerio de Lima by unanimous decision. Acosta was a plus 150 underdog in that De Lima fight. Now, Salsa Boy is going to be representing the Dominican Republic on Saturday when he gets into the cage against Cuba's very own Robelis Despaigne. Robelis is 5-0 as a pro, and all of those wins come by first-round knockout. His entire MMA career has lasted 5.5 minutes. So there are a lot of unanswered questions that still remain after his UFC debut, where he disposed of Josh Parisian by first-round KO in 18 seconds as a minus 400 favorite. Robelis is massive. He's freakishly long, and he has an Olympic Taekwondo striking background where he won a bronze medal back in 2012 at the London Olympics. This is a striker versus striker matchup. Promises to be a ding-dong Donnybrook of a scrap, and I can't wait to see it. Despaigne is a minus 205 favorite over Cortes-Acosta at the moment. Waldo is 3 years younger. He's got the pro and UFC experience advantages in spades here over Robelis Despaigne. He's got the durability advantage over here over Despaigne because we just don't know what durability looks like for Despaigne because I don't even know if I've ever seen the guy get hit once. And he's fought, beaten, and lost to the more experienced brand of competition with the better win-loss ratios. Definitely a big strength schedule advantage in favor of Waldo Cortes-Acosta. But Robelis is obviously going to have those measurables advantages, 3 inches taller, 9-inch reach advantage, a switch stance fighter versus an orthodox fighter, and he's got the striking advantage here. An Olympic-level Taekwondo practitioner, freakish length and height for the division, which makes him even more difficult to deal with defensively, and he has the death touch. The second this guy touches you, it's basically over. It might be a while before we see someone last more than a round against Robelis without completely suffocating him with clinch and ground control. And that has really never been Waldo's game. So I love Waldo's striking. His boxing is clean and technical, and his UFC distance striking metrics are excellent thus far, but there's no way that he's the better striker in this matchup. But this is going to be so much fun. Dominican versus Cuban, Taekwondo versus boxing, 2 gigantic heavyweights throwing down in front of a raucous St. Louis crowd. Despaigne has looked incredible so far. The only real tape on him is in his debut, where we went almost the full first round, and even there, the conditioning didn't look incredible. He had problems keeping his mouthpiece in, but he finished the fight by landing big shots late in the round, and he didn't look gassed to me. You cannot teach height. You cannot teach length. And Despaigne has both. And even though he's new to MMA and his pro career has lasted less than 6 minutes, this guy has competed and succeeded at a high level, being a bronze medalist in the London Olympics in 2012. He has one-shot KO power. And when he throws those head kicks, they have to be respected. They can knock you out or break your arm. And there's virtually no way to counter that technique from so far away without leaving yourself open to getting knocked out should you try to counter it. So Waldo's definitely the more experienced fighter who's fought the much tougher level of competition thus far in his career. The unknowns about Despaigne and how his grappling looks and how his cardio holds up after the first round are things we already know about Waldo. The question is, can Waldo keep this fight going long enough to get us answers to those questions? The answer might very well be no. Despaigne does appear to have the death touch, and there appears to be a massive power differential in favor of Despaigne here. Waldo isn't the kind of fighter that uses his grappling game to win minutes. He has a grand total of 0 UFC takedowns, and he's controlled his opponent's 1.3% of his UFC octagon time. So we can confidently say that this is going to be a striking match in the big cage, at least early, that heavily favors Despaigne. Waldo's durable. He's got great conditioning. So the possibility is definitely there that he can survive early, drag Despaigne into deeper waters where we've never seen him swim, and drown him. However, the very real question about whether or not he can absorb Despaigne's strikes without going unconscious remains. It's hard to lay juice on Despaigne with all the unanswered questions about him, but I still think Waldo isn't the type of opponent that can drag him there. So the pick for this fight really has to be Robelis Despaigne to win by first round knockout. There we go. 29 comments. What the hell? My God, you guys are absolutely killing it in the chat, man. Let's see. Robert says Despaigne by KO. Benito is going to knock the fucking salsa out of this dude. Juice to the teats for sure, says Andrew. Despaigne under a half round, I like. We got Waldo where's Waldo after he gets slept and wakes up? Acosta round 1 sub from Olajuwon Dream at plus 2,500. Waldo's in the hospital. Going to smoke him like a 2 Cuban cigar. We got Ronin MMA is live and makes much better content, more interesting MMA YouTuber. Everyone go watch Ronin MMA. And that, whoever that guy is, he knows what he's looking at. So I would suggest that you take the suggestion of this guy that we've all never heard of. Justin Villegas saying Chase Hooper is prototype 2. The first they tried with steroids, and the second they had to remain a Roman Kopylov. Weird ass comment, Black Betty. We got Lashwan Dream calling literally, whoa, Black Betty. Weezy, you need a cup befitting that jacket. I do need a cup befitting this jacket. My cup is just a nice blue plain cup here, but I could use something that's, got jewels on it for sure. All right. The measurables would be too much if these guys swing dick. We all know whose is bigger. Hell yeah, man. I think Waldo could be worth a shot, but I would say Waldo rounds 2-3. That's how I would play it if I was playing Waldo. This guy Despaigne's huge, and there's a big power differential in favor of this guy. But he can absolutely do it. Waldo Cortes-Acosta has got phenomenal conditioning and very good durability. So he is the archetype of fighter, even without grappling upside, that could maybe give Despaigne some problems here. We got Freak saying Scottsdale, Arizona is watching you. We got Dixon in the room saying Prophet Weezy, if Robelis gets a free month of your new probability package, yes, you can. Yes, I'll give that to you for sure, because that's not happening. But if it happens, my guy Dixon is going to get a free month of the probability package, and I'm going to have him kind of like announcing to all of MMA Twitter what he thinks of it. But yeah, if Despaigne wins by decision, you get a free month. That is for sure. Costa seems like a front runner. UFC punishing him for that Arlovsky performance. That's for sure, man. All right, you guys, let's move on to this next fight. It is going to be Alex Caceres, the plus 185 underdog, going up against Sean Woodson, the minus 220 favorite. Fight doesn't go to decision here at plus 200. Every once in a while, there's going to be a fight on these cards that just kind of slips through the cracks for me. This is that fight. I'll get the stats up here for you guys. I don't think I've ever picked an Alex Caceres fight correctly, ever. If I've ever bet on an Alex Caceres fight, I've gotten it wrong. I'm still not sure what Alex Caceres is good at. He's okay on the feet, above average distance striking metrics. He's got a good grappling game, but he never offensively wrestles. And what's even more aggravating is that when Caceres has a massive grappling advantage, when the easiest way for Alex Caceres to win a fight would be for him to wrestle offensively, you can be guaranteed that there is a 0% chance that he will wrestle or take advantage of that grappling advantage that he has. So he's a very difficult fighter to figure out. He's consistently underrated by the market. He has a 13-9 UFC record. That's a really good record over 22 UFC fights. And as far as I think he might even go back further and have an even more impressive record, because I think he's been fighting in the UFC since before 2013. Now he's going to be fighting the hometown fighter here in Sean Woodson, who's 4 inches taller, who's going to have a 5-inch reach advantage here. But obviously it's Caceres who's fought the better level of competition. It's Caceres who's a lot more experienced overall and in the UFC. It's Caceres who's going to be the better grappler in this spot, the much more efficient grappler. But Sean Woodson's got really good distance striking. And because Alex Caceres has the grappling advantage in this fight, you can be 100% sure that he will shoot 0 takedowns and not take advantage of it. So we're talking about a guy in Woodson who's 4 inches taller, 5-inch reach advantage. He's also 4 years younger, and he's the better distance striker. He just does better work at range. He lands 7.6 at distance. He throws 16.9, while we see Caceres throwing 5.2 and only attempting 11.2. So if I can count on this being a distance striking match, and I know that Alex Caceres' wins aren't any better than Sean Woodson's wins on the aggregate, I mean, then I can be really happy with getting Woodson here and picking him to win by decision, because Alex Caceres is a very durable guy. But it has to be mentioned, Sung Woo Choi, Sadiq Youssef, Julian Eroser, Pineda, and Chikadze for the last 5 for Caceres. He's fighting higher level guys right now than Woodson. So this is a step up in competition against a 36 fight veteran with 400 minutes of professional cage time, who's got well over 20 UFC fights to his credit and has got a winning record in this organization. Alex Caceres' wins, when you look at them on paper, they're not great wins, but he's also overperforming in fights that you would expect him to get killed in. Alex Caceres is making them very close. So on the money line here, I think that this is dog or pass. I think Alex Caceres is always live. Fight doesn't go to decision at plus 200. Let's see what the over-under template thinks of that. Kind of likes it. I mean, it's underpriced based on a couple of different categories. We got 38% combined in 29 fights for Caceres and Woodson, finishing inside the distance. We're only paying 33%. And I mean, potentially interesting fat plus money number there. Caceres sub, potentially a Woodson sub or a knockout. But yeah, I'm going to go Sean Woodson by decision in this fight. Right. And let's move on to this next fight. It is going to be Diego Ferreira at plus 300 going up against Mateusz Rebecki, minus 400 favorite or 80% implied. Fight doesn't go to decision here, juiced up at minus 205 for this fight. So, wait, let me get the stats up here for you guys. There we go. And let's start talking about the trends for this fight. Diego Ferreira has lost 3 of his last 4 fights, but he is coming off a highlight reel knockout win 1 year ago against Michael Johnson as a minus 160 favorite. Prior to that, he lost 3 fights in a row, all in the year 2019. He lost to Mateusz Gamrot by rib injury as a plus 200 underdog. He lost to Gregor Gillespie by second round ground and pound KO as a plus 120 underdog. And he lost by split decision to Beneil Dariush as a plus 110 underdog. Diego's 39 years old, but there aren't a lot of miles on the engine as he only fights around once a year, and he's currently on a 1-year layoff. He's going to be facing off against red-hot Polish prospect Mateusz Rebecki, who's 3-0 so far in the UFC, and he's 19-1 as a professional. He's the former FEN lightweight champion. He's currently on a 16-fight winning streak, and he hasn't lost since 2014. He's pretty much buzzsawed every UFC opponent thus far. He won a dominant 30-27 unanimous decision against Nick Fiore. He was a minus 800 favorite in that debut fight. He shaved the ass of Loic Rajabov by second-round knockout as a minus 155 favorite, then finished Roosevelt Roberts by first-round armbar as a minus 625 favorite back in November. Mateusz is taking a huge step up in level of competition, squaring off against Diego Ferreira, and he is a minus 400 favorite against that big step up in competition, while Ferreira is a plus 300 dog. So Diego's bigger. He's 2 inches taller, and he's going to have an 8-inch reach advantage. He's got the overall and UFC experience advantages here. And at the UFC level, Diego Ferreira's got 11 more fights and 100 more minutes of octagon time. And he's also got the strength of schedule advantage here, as Diego has fought, beaten, and lost to the much more experienced brand of UFC competition with the better win-loss records. This is a significant strength of schedule advantage in favor of Diego Ferreira in this matchup. Now, Mateusz Rebecki is 8 years younger. It's a southpaw versus orthodox matchup, so you like that for the southpaw. And the pace and pressure that Rebecki puts on is fantastic. Mateusz is small for the weight class, but he pressures nonstop, and he gets his opponents moving backwards. Once they're moving backwards, He uses his striking to set up the entries on his takedowns. And whenever he throws, it's not to touch you, it's to end the fight. There is serious malice in Rebecki's strikes. Mateusz pushes that pressure, that power striking, the output, the heavy leg kicks, the takedown and submission attempts, and he goes at that pace for the full 15 minutes. He is a problem to deal with. So in summary, how much does CDF have left in the tank at 39 years old? He didn't look great in the Johnson fight up until he landed that bomb of an overhand right. Prior to that, he was on a 3-fight losing streak, but it was against top names in the division, like Gamrot, Gillespie, Dariush. CDF is taller, longer, more experienced overall and in the UFC. He's got a lot more UFC experience than Mateusz, and the strength of schedule isn't even close. CDF is a well-rounded fighter with great takedown defense, above average striking, a BJJ black belt who's 7-0 to the submission, and he's faced a murderer's row of opponents over his UFC tenure. So nobody that isn't elite walks over this guy. Carlos is on a 1-year layoff, and he's facing off against a kid who's on a 16-fight win streak right now and over 7 years younger than him. Mateusz is 3-0 in the UFC so far, and he's finished 2 of those 3 wins. He's powerful, technical, has excellent conditioning, relentless wrestling and submission grappling, and he never fucks off the entire time you're locked in the cage with this guy. So Mateusz has the look of someone who could be special and have a number next to his name sometime soon. I think Carlos can keep this close for a round. Then Mateusz starts to put water in the basement with his leg kicks, body work, and constant pressure and output. And I see Mateusz breaking CDF in the late second or the early third round. And the official pick is going to be Mateusz Rebecki to win by second round KO. All right. Let's see here. All right, let's move on to the next fight. We've got Alonzo Menifield, a big underdog here at plus 230 going up against Carlos Ulberg at minus 270. We've got fight doesn't go to decision here. Big time juiced at minus 290 for this fight, but I get it. These are 2 big hitters, and I wouldn't want to be betting overs in this fight because my butthole will be clenched every time one of these guys wound up for a big shot. But let's first start talking about the trends here. Alonzo is a hot fighter right now. He's undefeated in his last 5 fights. He's 4-0-1 in that stretch. And if it weren't for a bad decision in the William Knight fight, he'd be 7-0-1 in his last 8 fights. Zoe is fresh off a 29-28 unanimous decision win versus Dustin Jacoby. He was a plus 220 underdog in that spot. And before that, he finished Jimmy Crute in a rematch by second round guillotine as a plus 120 underdog. Alonzo has big power, and he's slowly moving up the ladder of the light heavyweight division. He will be fighting Carlos Ulberg, another fighter who's on a roll right now. Carlos is 9-1 as a pro, and he's 5-1 in the UFC thus far. Carlos is on an 8-month layoff. He had to pull out of a scheduled bout against Dom Reyes in January, and then Dom had to pull out of what was supposed to be the next fight that was made. So Carlos won via late third round rear naked choke versus Da Un Jung back in September of 2023 as a minus 280 favorite. And prior to that, he rattled off 3 straight first round wins. One of them versus Ihor Potieria. He was a minus 450 favorite. Nikolai Negamarianu as a minus 135 favorite. Before that, Tafan and Chukwu, he knocked him out as a plus 125 underdog, actually. How would you like to go back in time and get Ulberg as a plus 125 underdog against Nchukwu? That'd be pretty sweet. Carlos right now is a minus 270 favorite over Alonzo Menifield, the 230 underdog here. So Menifield has got the pro and UFC experience advantages. And at the UFC level, he's got 6 more fights and 1 more hour of octagon time. Menifield's got big power. Zoe does have heavy hands and serious strength. He's 10-1 to the knockout as a pro. He's 4-1 to the knockout in the UFC. He lands a knockdown on 1.2% of the significant strikes that he lands. Menifield's got the grappling advantage here. He's got an underrated grappling game. He's 3-0 as a pro to the submission, and he's 2-0 in the UFC. Zo outcontrols his opponents 30% to 15.5%, despite getting half as many takedowns as his opponents get against him. Zo has really improved his grappling, and he brings it out occasionally, and his sub game is improving steadily. And Zo has fought and beaten the more experienced brand of UFC competition with the better win-loss record. So I like Zo's strength of schedule as well. Now, Carlos is 3 years younger, 4 inches taller, and he's going to have a 1-inch reach advantage over Zo. And he's just the better striker. Carlos has high-level kickboxing. He's tall and long for the division. He's fast, he's accurate, and he's powerful. His UFC distance striking metrics are fantastic. Positive 3.3 distance striking differential, 58% accuracy, 52.5% defense is below average, but a 1.2% knockdown percentage. Carlos has got a 4-to-1 knockdown ratio, and he's 6-1 to the knockout as a pro. He's very difficult to deal with at distance striking range. So it's a very interesting fight. Ulberg is the much cleaner and more technical kickboxer, and that's why he's such a big favorite. If this fight does come down to a distance kickboxing match, then I do think Ulberg gets the job done by winning the minutes and the moments. The measurables advantages Carlos has in every category are compelling. His defensive footwork and ability to win point fights is impressive, and even though Menifield has big power, Carlos does too. So I see both of these guys as being likely to land a bomb here. There's a good amount of reasons to like Menifield here as well. He's the more experienced guy overall and in the UFC. He's fought and beaten the slightly better brand of UFC competition, and he's the guy with the grappling and control time upside in this fight. And it needs to be noted that Ulberg's distance striking defense at 52.5% is not good, and that he's been knocked down and out before in the UFC. So somebody that has the power and accuracy that Alonzo has is definitely live to land a big shot. This line is too wide, in my opinion. Ulberg is the taller, longer, guy with more technical kickboxing, but Alonzo's more experienced. He has the strength of schedule and grappling advantages, and he's also live to land a big shot. With Ulberg currently at minus 270 on the money line, this is dog or pass on the money line right now, and Ulberg's KO line is minus 115, and his decision line is plus 400. So I'd say there's way more value on that decision prop on the Ulberg side. And I made a small bet on Menifield to win by submission at plus 1,200 because Menifield's perceived grappling advantage and because we haven't seen Ulberg's defensive grappling tested yet at the UFC level. And Alonzo Menifield has 2 UFC wins coming by way of submission. I see Ulberg skirting around the outside of the cage, winning minutes, landing the bigger shots, but a shot on Menifield's money line at plus 230, on the sub prop at plus 1,200. And I also took the under 1.5 rounds here because BetOnline opened it up at plus 170. I thought that was a phenomenal price, so I jumped on that for 1 unit. But the pick here is going to be Carlos Ulberg to win by decision. All right. We got, yeah, Benino saying like it, maybe he'll get better. We'll get greedy with the round pops. Yeah, Alonzo will fight for your money. At what point do you have to bet Menifield? I don't get this line at all. I think you can fucking bet him right now, dude. Menifield takes down Ulberg. It's going to be interesting to see how he deals with that because it's like having a fire hydrant on top of you. Minus 270 for a guy who's only lost to a guy who lost to OSP. What a time to be alive. That is for sure, man. Alonzo plus 3.5 points. He likes that. Menifield has pads here, but in my mind, that check hook is landing. Carlos has very fast hands. Yes, he does. He's a phenomenal kickboxer without question. I feel like Alonzo is a bookie trap. It might be because it is a very compelling number on him, but he's going to have to close the distance here against Ulberg, and that's not going to be easy. Elijah One Dream loves that under. I do too. Ulberg lost to Kennedy and Checkwu via KO. Yeah, but that was like he beat 7 shades of shit out of Kennedy, but Kennedy just didn't die. And then Ulberg dumped and was over with. Alonzo plus 3.5 says the backstage tattoo. All right, you guys, let's move on to this next fight. We got 200 live viewers right now between YouTube and Twitter. Hit that thumbs up. Hit that subscribe on YouTube. Please leave me a comment down below on YouTube, and please consider joining the Patreon so that you can watch tonight's version, 9:15, subscribers only version of Probability, where we're going to take you through every fight on this card and find the best priced props so that we can all stack cash tickets like flapjacks. And this is one of the fights that we'll be talking about. It's going to be Joaquin Buckley, the hometown kid, at minus 137, going up against Uzbekistan's very own Nursultan Ruziboyev at plus 117. And let me tell you something. If Ruziboyev pulls this one off, they will be dancing in the streets of Tashkent, Uzbekistan. You can mark your Uncle Weezy's words on that. Fight doesn't go to decision here. Juiced up like you would expect at minus 285 for this fight. So let's get these stats up here for you guys, and let's talk about the trends in this fight. Joaquin Buckley's on a 3-fight winning streak, and he's won 6 of his last 8. 2 losses in that stretch came against Nasruddin Imavov by a unanimous decision. That was as a plus 210 underdog. And Chris Curtis by second-round KO, and he was a minus 165 favorite in that fight. Since then, Buckley has rattled off 3 straight versus Andre Fialho by second-round head kick KO. He was a minus 230 favorite in that fight. He beat Alex Morono by a 30-27 unanimous decision as a minus 170 favorite. And he beat Vicente Luque by second-round ground and pound KO as a minus 105 pick'em. Buckley is fighting in his home city of St. Louis, and this fight was just made a couple of weeks ago so they could get him on the main card and have a fairly big-name local fighter on the card besides Charles Johnson and Sean Woodson. He's going to be squaring off against Nursultan Ruziboyev, who has finished both of his UFC wins in the first round and is on a 10-fight winning streak of his own. He has an absurd amount of pro experience for a fighter who is only 30 years old. 46 fights and 275 minutes of pro cage time in less than 10 years as a pro indicates an extremely busy schedule. Ruziboyev won by first-round knockout in his UFC debut versus Bruno Ferreira. He was a plus 180 underdog in that spot, and then he won by a controversial first-round knockout versus Special Delivery Dumas on March 30th as a minus 225 favorite in that spot. Both fighters fought and won back on March 30th, so both are on short notice, and both are on a short turnaround in this spot. It's Buckley, who's a minus 170 favorite over Ruziboyev, the plus 145 underdog. Now, Joaquin Buckley is a little bit younger, less than a year, 6 months younger than Nursultan. He's the southpaw in this southpaw versus orthodox matchup. He's got the UFC experience advantage, while Nursultan's more experienced, obviously, with 46 fights. It's Joaquin who has 10 more UFC fights and almost 2 more hours in the UFC octagon fighting much higher level opponents. So Nursultan is the much more experienced fighter, but Buckley, without question, has the higher level experience advantage. The striking advantage I have to give to Joaquin Buckley. Nursultan's striking has looked solid so far in the UFC, but that is what, 4.5 minutes that we've seen this dude at range, so we really don't know anything about him yet. But I do think Joaquin is better suited to win minutes and moments at range in this matchup. We've seen him in there against higher level opponents over a much larger sample size of higher level opponents. So Joaquin has landed 7 knockdowns in 12 UFC fights. He's got a 1.5% knockdown percentage. 13 of his 18 pro wins come by way of knockout. He's got power. He's a southpaw. And he also has a positive 0.7 distance striking differential. So he lands more than he absorbs in both significant strikes and knockdowns. And he's got the strength of schedule advantage here by a mile. But Nursultan Ruziboyev is 7 inches taller than Joaquin. He's got the overall experience advantage with 22 more fights and 50 more minutes of pro cage time. He's got the striking as well. Not that he's better than Joaquin. It's just that because he's 6'5" with a 76-inch reach, he's a very interesting and unique problem to deal with. I do think Buckley's the more well-tested striker, but Nursultan's height makes him a unique challenge. He's low volume, but he waits to counter, and because of the counter-heavy style along with the height, it winds up making it difficult for his opponents to get their offense off. Ruziboyev has 47% distance accuracy and 81% defense in a small sample size. His knockdown percentage is 5.6%, and he's got a positive 2.2 distance striking differential. He's 12-1 to the KO in his pro career. So even though we know more about Buckley, it's clear that Ruziboyev's striking is not to be trifled with. And then the submission grappling advantage, that goes to Nursultan Ruziboyev. He's 20 wins and 1 loss to the submission as a professional. He's easy to take down, but once he's there, he's very aggressive looking to lock up submissions. His unusual height for the division makes him a unique challenge to deal with, not only on the feet, but also on the mat. So it's a very interesting late notice fight here where we know where both Nursultan and Joaquin fought back on March 30th. We know so much more about Buckley. He has 10 more UFC fights and over 110 more minutes of octagon time. So we know who Joaquin is. He's a big hitter with real KO power, explosive athleticism, and a really good strength of schedule. But Ruziboyev is 7 inches taller than Joaquin. He has 22 more pro fights and 50 more minutes of cage time, and he's the far more dangerous submission grappler in this matchup. The one thing I don't know is how Ruziboyev will look in a 3-round fight at the UFC level. His 2 UFC fights have lasted less than 5 minutes combined, and I feel as if I know just as much about Nursultan today as I did before he fought in the UFC. Nursultan seems to use his length well at distance. He's low volume and he waits to counter, and due to how long he is, it makes it really hard to get into the pocket against this guy. If this fight gets out of the first round, it's pretty easy to see Joaquin using his high-level experience and conditioning advantages to take over the fight. But we have to admit that we honestly have no idea how Nursultan looks later in fights. He might be fine there. He has a low-output striking style, and he doesn't wrestle offensively much. I'm staying away from this fight. I still need more information on Nursultan. I feel like Buckley could fraud check this guy and look minus 500 in front of the home crowd. But Nursultan's such a unique puzzle to solve due to his height, reach, and ability to finish fights wherever the fight goes. He's 20-1 to the submission. He's 12-1 to the KO. That he could look like a really solid dog bet in retrospect here. Add in the short notice and the quick turnaround for both fighters, along with the fact that Ruziboyev is cutting down to 170 for the first time in a long time. And this fight is a stay away, at least until I see Nursultan on the scale. And then from there, we can go. But I'm going to pick Joaquin Buckley to win this one by second round knockout, but with very little confidence and with a very small probability that I'm betting on this fight. All right, let's see. Robert Saladino just checked out Ronin MMA. I lost more brain cells in 20 seconds compared to all my former years clubbing in Manhattan. Yeah, I've had some club years where I lost some fucking brain cells too. I don't know who that dude is though, so I can't speak about it personally. But either way, Ulberg doesn't like to get hit. He's always on the back foot. That's very true. Buckley lock of the week says backstage tattoo. Funny hat's definitely hard to fade, always. Andrew avoiding this fight like I am. Yeah, 7 inches taller is crazy. He's also avoiding this fight. Give me Ruziboyev round 1 or round 2. Buckley inside the distance, hedge out or under 1.5. Yeah. Buckley might KO this tall tree that shouldn't be at this weight class. Yeah, that's for sure. We're going to have to see how he looks on the scale. Same reach, though. Okay, yeah. Let's see. Oh, yeah, there we go. Nothing but toasted ravioli and Budweiser when Buckley gets the KO in the loo. There we go, man. Reach is the same. Easy bucket. Olajuwon Dream saying, want to see the weight cut goes for Nursultan. Buckley does seem to have some issues with taller opponents, but dude could be so depleted, Buckley could catch him. Yes, for sure, man. Light sprinkled Ruziboyev by sub. Yeah, you do become chinny when you cut too much weight. Rusboy plus 132 for JP Taylor. Fraud Zaboyev, easiest pick. Buckley rounds 2-3. Grappling and edge for sure, JP. You can't teach reach. Yeah, this guy's huge. Uzbekistan beast. Okayev versus Kopp, who you all got. I don't know yet. I'm going to have to look into that one. If I was rich, I would bet this fight. If I worked 40 hours a week, I'd stay away. Yes, there you go, man. That's the way I feel. Hey, man, the GOAT up in here, Tajik Bey, saying, boy, it's been a while. Hope all is well, Weezy. All is well, man. Working my fucking ass off. Just built a new probability tier to the Patreon, so $25 a month. Live probability. We're going live 9:15 this evening, Tajik Bey. Always good to see you hanging out in here, man. I hope all is well with you, brother. Sergio in the room saying Buckley went to 170 to avoid big guys. Now at 170, he's facing a guy that's 6'5". Don't know if Copeland is there. All right, you guys, let's move on to this next one. It is the main event. It is Derek the Black Beast Lewis at minus 161 going up against Rodrigo Zé Colmeia, otherwise known as Yogi Bear Nascimento, plus 141. The fight doesn't go to decision. Juiced to the tits at minus 1,000, ladies and gentlemen. Let's get these stats up on the screen. 205 live viewers on Twitter and YouTube. Hit that thumbs up. Hit that subscribe. Leave me a comment down below. And please consider joining the Patreon, where you can get access to the $25 a month probability tier. We're going live DFS by the numbers and I tonight, 9:15 Central Time, to break down all the plus EV bets on this card with all these new templates that I have put together. But yeah, Lewis versus Rodrigo. Let's talk about the trends in this fight. Derek Lewis starting to come on the other end of his career here at 39 years old. He's lost 4 of his last 5 fights. He's 39 years old, and he's had 28 UFC fights since the year 2013. Derek definitely looks to be slowing down lately. He's a knockout artist, but outside of finding that big shot, he doesn't really have much of a skill set. Derek is the UFC knockout king. 14 UFC wins by KO since 2013 and 22 career wins by knockout. Derek lost to Tuivasa by second round KO as a minus 190 favorite, to Sergey Pavlovich by first round KO as a plus 135 underdog, to Sergey Spivak by arm triangle as a plus 190 underdog. He then knocked out De Lima as a plus 180 underdog, and most recently lost to Jailton Almeida by unanimous decision over 5 rounds as a plus 370 underdog. He will be headlining this UFC St. Louis card against Rodrigo Nascimento, who's won his last 3 fights and is 11-1 as a professional. Rodrigo won by split decision against Tanner Boser in September of 2022 as a plus 150 underdog. Won by split decision against Alir Latifi as a minus 190 favorite. And he won a unanimous decision versus Dante Almays as a minus 200 favorite. Rodrigo's only pro loss came against Chris Daukaus by first round KO back in October of 2020. Rodrigo is a plus 125 underdog to Derek Lewis, who is the minus one. He's actually plus 141 underdog to Derek Lewis, the minus 161 favorite. So Derek Lewis is going to be 1 inch taller. He's going to have the pro experience advantage with 27 more fights and 270 more minutes of cage time. The UFC experience advantage with 22 more UFC fights, almost 200 more minutes of octagon time. He's got the striking and the power advantages here. Lewis is the knockout king. 14 wins by way of KO. He lands a knockdown on 1.5% of the strikes that he lands, and he's landed 9 UFC knockdowns while only absorbing 4. Being at distance striking range with this dude is very dangerous. And Derek Lewis obviously has the strength of schedule advantage here. He's fought, beaten, and lost to the more experienced brand of UFC competition with the better win-loss ratios. In addition, Derek has been scheduled to fight for 5 rounds 11 different times in the UFC, and for Rodrigo, it's 0. So Derek has way more big fight experience. But Rodrigo's 8 years younger almost. He's got a 1 inch reach advantage, and he's the better minute winner. Wherever the fight goes, Rodrigo does more. He throws and he lands more volume on the feet. He attempts takedowns. He gets them, and he wins almost 2/3 of the control time positions that his fights are in. Rodrigo's 3-0 to the decision in the UFC, and Derek is 4-3 to the decision. And Nascimento's got the grappling advantage. He's a BJJ black belt. He's 6-0 to the submission, while Lewis is 1-2 to the submission. And Rodrigo gets 1.3 takedowns per 15 minutes on 3.8 attempts. He outcontrols his opponents 26% to 13%, and he attempts a half a submission per 15 minutes, and he's got one UFC win by way of submission. So Rodrigo is the better minute and moment winner in the grappling exchanges. So this is a fun heavyweight fight to close out a fun UFC St. Louis card. Rodrigo is without question taking a huge step up in competition here. It's not like Derek Lewis is good at anything but knocking dudes out, but he is the best at it. 14 UFC wins by KO in 28 UFC fights, and 78% of his 18 UFC wins come by way of knockout. Rodrigo's better pretty much everywhere but experience, power, and strength of schedule. He should be the better minute winner at range. He has all the grappling upside, and he's 1 inch taller, has an inch of reach, and he's 8 years younger than Derek. I could see him easily winning the minutes of this fight wherever it goes, but the only question is whether he makes a mistake and absorbs a bomb from Derek. These heavyweight fights are always high variance, and with Derek Lewis, it's even worse because it just comes down to whether he lands a big shot or not. Derek isn't winning minutes. He's not outpointing you, and his gas tank is pretty bad, and he has almost zero grappling upside. But his power is elite, and if you can't get the fight away from the distance striking exchanges, Derek is live at any point in the fight. Derek will have the most finishing upside, and he's probably the guy who lands the bigger shots on the feet. So in this damage over control era of judging, and being that this is a 5-round fight, I think the responsible pick is Derek Lewis to win. And I think if Rodrigo wins, it's going to be by submission. But the pick is going to be Derek the Black Beast Lewis to win by knockout in round number 2. We did it, you guys. We went through all 13 of these fights. We got picks for all of them. We got 2 orders of business left to go. We've got the Bootsy Collins Memorial Dogs Are Barking Pick of the Week, and we've got Uncle Weezy's Ass Shaving of the Week. You guys, let's go through the picks real quick here. We got Veronica Hardy by decision. We got Kevin Jousset by decision. We've got Jake White Kong Hadley by decision. We got Billy Goff by second-round knockout. Tabatha Ricci by decision. Esteban El Gringo Ribovics by second-round knockout. We got Viacheslav Borshchev by first-round knockout. We got Robelis, the big boy Despaigne by first-round knockout. We got Sean the Sniper Woodson by decision. We got Mateusz Rebecki by second-round knockout. We got Carlos Ulberg by decision. Buckley by second-round knockout. And Derek Lewis by knockout in round number 2. What do you guys got going for me in here? We got Zach Johnson asking how we're doing, Weezy. I'm doing real well, Zach. Thanks for checking in, brother. We got Sergio saying lay. We got the real TP saying this fight ain't worth me betting, though. I tend to stay away from these BS kind of fights. I hear you, man. We got Derek saying, or JP saying, Derek has a KO in every round except for the 5th on his record. He is dangerous any time of a fight. Yeah, I remember when he got that 4th round ground and pound knockout against Shamil Abdul-Rahimov. Oh, wow, just at the ass end, says Zach. That's correct. We got thanks, Unk, says Andrew G. Lewis is 39, not old for heavyweight, not young either, that's for sure. Great show today. Says Andrew, we got Goff plays a dangerous game, Weezy. Yeah, he does. He does, but he plays it well. I love watching Goff. I love that Waters Goff fight. Definitely one of my favorite fights on the card. JJ Aldrich by Judge's Fuckery Split. Be careful. And my guy, Grateful Dude, saying, hoping you'll stack those cash tickets like flapjacks this weekend. Hell yeah. And I saw Rouses in here. I'm ready for probability tonight. Let's go. I saw that Rouses joined the probability Patreon, so appreciate you, Rouses. Get ready for a good show tonight at 9:15 Central Time. Link in the Dub Club. Link in the Patreon. We're going live, Brady and I, to break down some plus EV bets. But let's get to it, you guys. The Bootsy Collins Memorial Dogs Are Barking pick of the week this week is going to be a guy who's got that dog in him, Billy Goff, the money line. And it just so happens that I've got my girlfriend and I met a dog that we're going to be rescuing, hopefully, yesterday. That dog is making a visit over to my place tonight at around 7 o'clock. And if all goes well, we're going to have a new dog barking around here, a big 90-pound Mastiff named Alfie. We might have to change the name to something a little bit better, but either way, we're looking to get a dog here in the house this week, and the inaugural Dogs Are Barking pick of the week for, remember, my fallen Rottweiler, Bootsy Collins. It's going to be the Billy Goff money line at plus 136. And the way that I'm going to look to play this is I want to find out what those 2 and 3 round props are for Billy Goff, because I think that if he wins this fight, that he'll break him down later in the fight. It's the pressure, it's the volume that Goff throws that makes him so difficult, but he's going to have a hard time closing the range against somebody as sharp as Trey Waters, somebody as long, somebody as powerful. But I think that he will win that pressure battle, and once it's clear that he has, and he's really got Waters on that back feet, I think he's going to finish him either on the ground with ground and pound or on the feet with body shots. But I like that Billy Goff money line at plus 136, which brings us to the final order of business this afternoon. It is Uncle Weezy's ass shaving of the week. Who's it going to be, you guys? Who's going to win in violent fashion this week? Who's not only going to win, but do it in a way that makes the highlight reels, that makes us say, oh, shit, did you just see that? That was an ass shaving. Who's it going to be this week? Let me know what you guys are saying in the chat here. We got my guy Andrew saying it's a great show today. Appreciate you. Olajuwon saying it's a great show as always. We got Wolf Goff, says JP Taylor. Let's go. Goff is going to fight for our money. Let's go. Yes, he will, man. We got have fun leading that guy, bud. Feeding that guy, bud, for sure. I know. Well, I'm used to feeding a 110-pound Rottweiler, so this 90-pound dog is going to get almost as much food as the Rottweiler did. That's awesome, Weezy. If Robelis wins decision, you have to name the dog Dixon Cider. Yes. Name that dog Hercules. I like that name. A good Greek name is always great for dogs. We got JP Taylor saying Salsa Boy getting shaved with a rusty razor. That is a certain possibility. Jousset inside the distance or Rebecki round 1, says the real TP. Well, I'll tell you what I'm going with this week, you guys. It's going to be Esteban El Gringo Ribovics to shave the ass of Terrance McKinney. I love the conditioning. I love the durability. I love the heart on Esteban Ribovics. And I think it's just as much as I love those 3 attributes on Ribovics, I hate those 3 attributes on McKinney. And I think that this fight comes down to those 3 attributes. Plus, Ribovics is younger. He's got the much better conditioning, and that is not even close. And he's just a lot more comfortable with fighting. So I think Esteban El Gringo Ribovics is a great bet this week. I'm going to be betting him to win in rounds 1 and 2. And I'm also going to be betting him to win in rounds 2 and 3. So it's basically going to be a big inside the distance bet. But I'm hoping that Esteban Ribovics gets a second round finish and I cash the 1-2 bet and the 2-3 bet. But instead of just betting him inside the distance, I'm going to throw some units on him to we're going to do it so we do round 1, 2. So if he wins in round 1 or 2, we win the same amount and lose the same amount. And then I'm going to do the same thing for a 2-3 spread. But I really like Ribovics this week to shave some ass, to get the job done. And it's a reasonable price at minus 161. We're not laying that much juice, but I also like Ribovics inside the distance, obviously. And I'm going to be looking at where those round props open up in order to find the best prices, get the best numbers, and make the most money. You guys, thank you for hanging out here with me today. 181 live viewers still. Smash that thumbs up, hit that subscribe button, leave me a comment, and make sure you join the probability tier of the Patreon, you guys, as my guy Brady and I will be going live at 10:15 Eastern Standard Time to do the new subscribers-only version of probability, which is going to be one of the best values going for Patreons, because not only are you getting statistics and picks, but you're also getting amazing betting models for every particular type of bet that you could possibly make. You're getting the best DFS information that's really going out there right now for DraftKings, for FanDuel, for Prize Picks, and for Underdog. And you're getting subscriber-only content too. So $25 a month, dubclub.win, patreon.com, links in the description. Check it out. Support me, support Brady, support the MMA Twitter community, and also fundraiser in memory of Bleed MMA. Please consider giving money to this cause. Gone too soon. Great content creator, gave so much to the space. This is our chance to give back to his family and support his family for all the support that Bleed gave us while we watched his content over the years that he's been doing this. Rest in peace, Bleed. Rest in power, brother. And we're going to miss you. You guys have a great rest of your Wednesday. I'll see you tonight on Pub Sports Radio, 8 o'clock Central Time. See you tonight on Patreon and Dub Club, 9:15 Central Time for Probability. God bless each and every one of you guys, and let's stack cashed tickets like flapjacks for UFC St. Louis. Talk to you later on tonight, you guys. Take care.